The following video contains content some viewers might find disturbing. The views and opinions expressed here are not facts and are nothing more than entertainment. The views and opinions are not facts and do not represent the views and opinions of Xirtus or our channel, and do not necessarily represent or reflect the views of the guests, YouTube, Google, mainstream media, society, or civilization at large, or anybody. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, Lord, give me the strength of Sandra Bullock in The Blind Side. Welcome back to Wednesday Ultra. How you guys been?
Good.
Awesome.
Great.
Holly jolly. I had to just take off my Santa hat because it was interfering with the headphones. But I want the audience to see my awesome sweater. I already showed you guys. But
Let me solo it. Oh, this is so good. So am I wrong or right? This is Mortal Kombat? Or is
Hadouken! No!
it's Street Fighter. What are you talking
Street
about,
Fighter?
bro?
That's right. Okay.
Come on
Ken
now.
Masters, and does Ryu have a last name? I don't even know.
See, I was seeing Kano. I don't know, but there wasn't any
Look
like.
how tight this is too. This is how you want your Christmas sweaters. Like you want to be like Cousin Eddie, like nice and tight. No, I'm just
It
kidding.
even has the full life bars with the man. That's
Dude.
great.
That's a pretty sweet Santa
KO
Claus
across the
too.
top. Oh yeah.
Santa Claus with the bird there is pretty sweet too. You got that's amazing.
That's from Kirkland. Thanks to Holly for Holly in the chat for turning me on to Kirkland.
Dude, good job, Kirkland. Well, so I mean, before I get too crazy, what have you guys been up to this week? What's been going on in your worlds?
Quite a lot. I was just on the Last American Vagabonds Rockfin channel today.
Nice.
Surprisingly, the StreamYard didn't work then. It's working fantastic now. And Ryan was on my show earlier in the week. I've had a great interview streak. The past 3 or 4 interviews I've done have been fantastic.
John Burt's a new member. Thank you so much for joining, John. We love you. I know you've been here for a long time, so you're like a patron and a member. It's like when you're not just the president, you're also a member. It's a pretty good thing. Yeah, it sucks when StreamYard like spots out on you, and I started to wonder like, is it really just like compression issues, or like do they really just have something watching everything everyone does all the time or something? Could it possibly be what's going on? I don't know.
Well, I'm a dork, and sometimes I play Age of Empires, and that game took up a whole bunch of disk space. So I was like, maybe it's Age of Empires. So I just deleted it. I kind of regret deleting it because I want to play later, but yeah.
You gotta get an external. You got to keep everything on an external. I got an external drive for work, that way all my video work is on the external drive.
I'm gonna do that afterwards. Thank you,
dude. An SSD will save you a lot of hassle. I would also like to point out Bigfoot was filmed by boaters in remote areas of Ontario. Actually, this was sent to me by Mark. I think, but it's pretty interesting, is it not? What do you guys think? Bigfoot.
You zoom in. Can I get a better look at him there?
No, you're not allowed to look at the big. You just have to believe.
If you control mouse, yeah, there you go.
All right. Computer.
That looks like a guy.
Man.
I think this is sexist. We're always convinced it's Bigfoot's a dude, and there's no evidence.
There would have to be a female,
Yeah. The argument has been made that Bigfoot is a lot closer to human than we think. Okay. And I've seen a couple of convincing arguments made, one of them by the David Paulides, who suggests that the reason why they never find a DNA signature for Bigfoot is because they always blame human contamination when they find it comes up as human DNA. So they're like, oh, it's been contaminated. The Bigfoot researchers must have contaminated it. Well, David Paulides argues that, hey, this stuff that we collected was not contaminated and it read as human beings. So, I mean, whether or not they're the same subspecies or whatever genus or however they classify that, the argument was made by David Paulides that Sasquatch might be human. So maybe there's some Sasquatch that look like shirtless men.
We did talk a bit about the Harry Mary, right? That came up with Ari. Did that or not?
Yeah, we did. The picture is burned in my brain.
Let me refresh for anyone who hadn't gotten the PTSD of the Harry Mary, that Mary Magdalene and Mary Mother of Christ were both depicted often as being covered in hair in the the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages, whatever you want to call them.
Is
now.
it Enki too? Enki and his brother Enlil. Enki was the hairy one, and Enlil was the human one in the Epic of Gilgamesh.
I don't remember being hairy, but okay. I guess that could be a thing.
Enki was in, I think, maybe interpretations are different, but pretty sure that Enki was like the wild man, and his
Enkidu. Enkidu was the wild man. Yeah.
Enkidu. Okay, yeah, not Enki.
You're right. Enkidu, was a little hairy, but was also something of an automaton as well, I believe.
Right. So Enkidu's like, well, that's interesting to say because animals are like automatons. By the natural standard of nature, anything is an automaton because it lives, it shits, it breathes, it reproduces, it does what it's supposed to do, until it's starting to get outside of its nature. And so Enkidu is not Enki. Enki is one of the gods. Enkidu
philosophy.
Sorry. But Starte, though, right? Starbucks. We can think about her staff and what she does, because she comes down and she has she foreign lawful carnal knowledge is all over the place with Enkidu. And that, like, she injects him with the staff. You can think of the staff of Hermes because it's really the staff of Isis, but this staff is 2 snakes wrapped around. It's the double helix DNA. It's injection of mutation. And so through sex, get this, the goddess impregnates Enkidu with this genetic modification. And he becomes more, because he's like 2/3 human, right? And then Gilgamesh is 2/3 god, or Anunnaki. Yes. So he all of a sudden is almost half human. He's lost some humanity in the process of being domesticated by having relations with Isis.
That's a similar story to what happens to Set after Set is it Horus that Set cuts into a bunch of pieces?
Right.
And then Horus's wife impregnates him in the skull, and he has like a baby out of his skull.
Yeah, I mean,
father Osiris is the one who gets cut up, and then his wife Isis goes and finds his penis to put him back together.
But she also does
gold penis. It's a gold penis.
She also does something to Set. She puts a seed in his head, and he gives birth to something out of his like forehead. I forget exactly what it is.
Yeah, I always thought of like the pineal gland, or even their like snake headdresses, and how like the snakes are always coming out of their forehead.
Right.
Or just ancient Egyptian gods are tough people, you know? Like you don't want to mess with them.
Cut us up, we'll still reproduce. What's up? We still here.
I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff in there, like
you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, but it's a lot of sexuality. Semen is a big part of the magic rituals, like getting drunk and everything, and the mortality potion.
I think that's what Isis does.
Dilemma and the rice cakes, the cakes of love. What are they? What are the cakes they make? They make cakes.
Is there semen in them?
Are you talking about witches' cakes, or are you from the salt? Or are you talking about Egypt?
No. The current.
Aleister Crowley wrote about this.
Yes, thank you. It's the practice of thelema. The
things I learned on
spiritual practice of thelema.
Thelema makes rice cakes. See, this is the kind of stuff that people, they should really have a PR that focuses on that more.
Up until Wednesday Ultra, my least favorite kind of cake was urinal cake, but now I know about witch cake.
Yeah, I mean, but if Quaker's making rice cakes and so is Thelema, I mean, we need to talk, because this is something I hadn't really thought about before. Is that a thing?
I think they finish them differently. Yeah.
Pepsi owns Quaker Oats. I don't know if they finish them as differently as you think they do. That's kind of the scare. I don't know. I'd love to know more.
Well, it's just that the as far as I'm aware, that the practice of thelema includes
cake of light. Oh
yeah.
God, Dougie, what have you done? All right,
y'all didn't know about this? Oh, this is a thing. Yeah,
they have a Eucharistic cake of light for the. I mean, of course they have to, but I didn't know that there'd be a nice Wikipedia page about it. Wow.
Flour, honey, a few drops of what kind of oil? Abramelin oil, olive oil.
Abramelin.
Okay.
Is that what they put in Coca-Cola or Pepsi?
Bees wings, so not beeswax, but actually wings of bees. Is that what that is? Bees wing?
Yeah, and then some of that Kundalini juices, of various sorts. Blood is frowned upon by most Gnostics. It's supposed to be sex juices, and is usually cooked in the shape of small flat wafer. Okay, so it's got to be a Eucharistic thing.
Yeah. This is interesting. You brought up the Quaker cakes, because I'm pretty sure they.
I didn't mean to bring up Quaker cake. No. I didn't do that. I'm just going to say that I'm washing my hands.
Didn't they invent cereal to stop men from jerking?
No, that's Kellogg's.
Kellogg's, yeah. Kellogg's did that. Quakers are cool. All right.
Yeah.
It was
Quakers are good.
Yourself, Jimmy.
Quakers are good people, and I think that's why it's branded as such.
You're just
because
afraid of the Quaker secret society coming after you. I get it, Mr. Douglas.
I mean, the thing about Quakers is they don't. Quakers don't have a hierarchy, so yeah. And this is what it looks like in a
for those Quakers.
What's that there on the floor by his chair? Is that like a little cat or something?
It's probably a cat or a little dog. Almost looks like a goat from behind, but I don't want to.
It does look like a goat.
2 dogs.
Your deal with the Quakers. There is no Episcopos. There's no Presbyteros. We kind of went into this at one point. The idea of elders in churches. They don't have that, so they just sit there, and then somebody stands up, starts talking about God, sits down, someone else stands up. There's no like one guy who's in charge of the Quakers, which is brilliant, and that's the kind of thing that was probably important against the Catholic Church at the time. You know, so it was
Well,
probably
who
really
was
great.
really in control. We know Horace Greeley was running the show.
Who's running the show?
Horace Greeley.
Horace Greeley.
Go West, young man. You don't know he was the Western expansion. Go West, young man. The king of the Quakers, Horace Greeley.
Oh, he was a Quaker. Tell us about Horace Greeley.
Oh, I didn't know about this.
He's the main Quaker. He was like their big author and leader and everything. And there's statues of him all around America. And he's famous for saying, "Go West, young man," telling young men that there's nothing left for them, you know, where civilization's already built up and they had to go start fresh in the West.
Interesting. Unsuccessful candidate against Ulysses S. Grant. Wow. Okay. And then so Grant was like drunk the entire time, and the entire presidency he served. The Congress ran a military state. It was basically martial law everywhere, and they had Yankee soldiers on every outpost in the South controlling everybody. That's interesting. He was the alternative voice.
But that's who the Quaker Oats guy is based after. He's like the model for the Quaker Oats.
Go West, young man. Well, that seems cool. I don't know. I'm for him as far as I'm concerned. Oh, maybe I don't know though, because like, you know, manifest destiny. So he could have been kind of a psychopath. Who knows? What do you think?
He was up in New Hampshire. There's definitely a bunch of different ideologies that blossomed in New England that, you know, because they all came over from Europe with different sort of strains of, you know, Presbyterian, Protestants, and Anglo-Saxon, you know, the whole gamut. And then they came here and they started sort of playing around with different ideas. A lot of the things that happened in the 60s were sort of related in a weird way, with the transcendentalist movement in New Hampshire kind of opened up this sort of fringe that became maybe more accepted occult movement, you know, but it kind of originated here in New England amongst people who were probably raised under very strict, you know, chaste.
He was basically like Bernie Sanders, you know, he was like, he would have fit in perfectly today at universities. He was like a feminist and a socialist and everything else. So.
Vegetarian, it looks like. Yeah, okay. So that's interesting. And he helped found what may have named the Republican Party. It may have named the Republican Party. Well, and then they boycotted it, took it over, replaced the anti-Masons. Bummer. That's what happened to the Quakers. I don't know. That kind of makes more sense. Makes him seem more like a decent dude. There's been a number of these utopian movements in America. The Mormons had a bunch of them. The Quakers, the Oneida Society, the Shakers. Weren't the Shakers not supposed to have sex? Celibacy, right? They'd like get other people's kids. Very strange movement. New Harmony. I wonder about Quakers because they're like, hey, we don't have any government above us, but then don't they? And so they have to end up eventually being subdued. Like the Amish are allowed to exist.
I think a lot of times their excuse ends up being, well, we're allowed to be governed by God, so somebody becomes a voice of God at some point, right? Like a minister or a board of ministers, or like you pointed out, where they're kind of just standing in a room and one of them stands up on a chair and they're all like, here, yes, let's do it that way from now on. I mean,
M&M's for breakfast for a week, everybody. Here.
Yeah, it's like I've hit the, you know, God's will is upon me. I have an insight. You know, I think that's sort of, there's a truth there. You know, I think people maybe do have the ability to channel information, but who knows whether or not it's, you know, actually coming from the God, the biblical God that they're believing in, right? I mean, that's
I love how this was about Quakers and Bigfoot originally being, you know.
I feel like they've got to have something in common. Well, it just goes to show you don't eat grains, because you start eating the oats, then next thing you know, you're into socialism and feminism.
You're going to be hearing the voice of God.
Yeah, let's watch him.
This is the footage, actually. Okay.
Oh, sick. Here we go. Let's see his gait. Let's see how he moves.
Oh. I don't know. It kind of looks fishy. I don't know, looks like CGI.
Still, I can't.
It seems like you could do. There's easier ways to make that happen than CGI. You could just get the guy in the suit and just be in a boat.
Yeah. It's like $40-$60 for a Chewbacca costume, I think. I don't know. It's not that bad. That's probably less now that Star Wars is ruined. I don't know. Still, seems kind of believable to me that they're in Ontario. That there are. I feel like if you look at like Earth, right?
Oh.
Let's do it right. if you look at Earth, there's just a lot of room. Where's the turtle one? You know, I don't know. There's a lot of room on Earth here for there to be places where humans aren't at. I think if we look at it and we say, okay, all right, so people live here, 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 up in this area here.
What?
You don't think so?
You just pointed at Los Angeles, Mexico City, Chicago, and New York and said we will live here, here, here.
Yeah. So like, I mean, we have big amounts of people that live in parts of the United States. But you go to Wyoming, there's a lot less people. You
Well, the
have
weird
big
thing
people
is
living in Toronto. You have people living in Vancouver. There are parts of northern Canada and
expect Bigfoot to be limited to like those strange, faraway places, but dude, there's plenty of sightings of weird, strange creatures in Chicago. I mean, that's one example because of the Great Lakes. There's a bunch of strange lake monsters and flying creatures that have been seen.
Take
Mexico
Mothman
City-
in the West Virginia and Pennsylvania for sure. Yeah.
Dude, Chicago
Mexico-
Lake Monster. I'm sure. What's the deal with the Chicago? I mean, I hear there's submarines, so wouldn't be surprised.
Well, I don't
Cool.
think it's the Chicago Lake. I think it's Lake Michigan. I don't know if
Yes,
there is.
yes,
a
yeah,
Chicago
correct.
Lake.
Yeah. No.
Kill it.
Still,
Shoot it.
I feel like that would be what the newspapers call it.
Triangle is normally what
Lake
the-
Michigan Monster. All right, so clearly other people have thought
The
this must be a thing.
Chicago Lake Monster.
You might be able to
they call
find
it.
more info if you type in the Lake Michigan Triangle. I think that's kind of like the Bermuda Triangle of Lake Michigan.
A lot of orb
Okay.
sightings.
Yeah,
Yes.
a lot of UFO sightings, a lot of disappearances of boats and airmen, people flying.
Orbs love me.
More disappearances than the Bermuda.
Aren't you
Good
near there
t-shirt.
right now,
It's a good t-shirt.
Andreas? Aren't you?
I'm
up
very close there. Yeah.
See if you can see some orbs.
Summon them. Be like, go to Mount like those hippies go to Mount Shasta.
Oh, that's hey, but why is
I mean,
Boygan, that's where
There's a lot of
part of
there's a,
relationship with the orbs.
Yeah.
there's a lot of German around here, so you can imagine there's probably a lot of paperclip the same way there is in Alabama or in Paraguay. So I could see that. Like, and there's lakes here, which is a great thing. Things could fly out of lakes. If something's like you have a metal enclosed ship that comes out of a lake, that's a big thing. The Argentina UFO lakes, all of these boats just
Right.
fly out of the lake and you can't see them because it's covered in water, and then just like
No, I jumped from UFOs from cryptids, but I do think they're related. Like there's a whole bunch of sightings.
Hey, look at
Dude,
this
that'd
guy.
be sick if
Weird
inside flying saucers are being flown by Bigfoots. That would just be the next level.
Well, it's weird that people do
You
see
think they know yet? No.
I mean, eyewitnesses that don't find themselves interested in these subjects who just happen to see a Bigfoot and a UFO in the same night. I mean, it's happened far too many times to just chalk it up to.
We have the lowest Bigfoot unemployment, many people say.
Oh, I have to throw in my my weight here with Mark. You're absolutely right. Countless reports of Bigfoot being intimately connected with other high strangeness, like
Emphasis
UFOs.
on intimate, also.
Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah.
making
mean-
love inside of UFOs. They runs the gamut. I mean, there's plenty of people who say they've been artificially or mysteriously impregnated by aliens. We want to hear from anyone who's been mysteriously impregnated by Bigfoot. Call one.
Yeah, I feel like that's the one they cover up.
Do we have a number?
I feel
Do
like
we
that
have a
would make
number to
a
call?
lot of money on the internet. That's going to get a lot of hits.
Andreas,
We should have a number to call. That's great.
we need a Wednesday Ultra hotline.
I would love
Yeah.
that. Would be awesome.
Dude, we should
I love
absolutely do like a call-in show where like Xirtus
Oh.
has like a big
We're gonna
phone
get that work in pretty soon. If you guys
Start
want to
building
prep
up
that,
statistics.
make sure
Let's
you're-
go. Yes.
make sure you're
Call us
members of
in-
the
call
Charter
us now if you've
Discord.
ever had sex with a Bigfoot.
Yeah,
People
if you
out
get-
there listening, get ready. Get ready with your questions. Get
if
ready.
you set up in the Charter Discord and you have questions, I will be reading them. Yeah, and also you can super chat us. Anything you guys have to say about
Telephone.
Bigfoot
I feel
sex.
I feel like live call-in is the only way to do this.
I don't know if this is a hard segue, but I'm gonna go back for I don't know. Do you want to think about Bigfoot for a second
that's
longer?
Female Bigfoot, right? That's got boobs, right? Am I
Everything about it's a female Bigfoot, right? It's like, and the fact is, the boobs matter.
right?
You know?
It does,
That's
because
the
I feel
thing.
like if you're buying a Bigfoot suit,
Another
it's
great
never
shirt.
coming with boobs. That's a special
Never.
alteration.
Never. What kind of crazy? This is clearly people in LA who are really thinking about Bigfoot a lot, or
Now
it
that's
really is
either a lady in a suit with some real droopers, or that's the suit is just built. That's
a tall lady with droopers, bro. I don't know. That's
That
like
to me
7
is
foot.
that looks like a Bigfoot. I'm more convinced by that one than
Yeah, the boobs is the thing that always gets me. It's like, why would you add that? Like, that seems like the kind of thing you would not even think to do. Maybe then I think to myself, you know what? That's how they get me, because I'm thinking, that's just an extra level of who would make that up? It's just an extra,
Well,
so extra.
If you go on that site, I mean, people see Bigfoot all the time and catch glimpses of it. It's just, the video's never great enough for people to be like, whoa, it's proven. But that website has like hundreds of Bigfoot videos.
I met an Ojibwa dude in Minnesota who's seen Bigfoot a number of times throughout his life. He's like 60. I don't think he calls him Bigfoot. He has another name for it. It's like a native name. But there's all kinds of stories from all peoples that there are simultaneously existing hominids to us. And so it's more of a question of when did they die out, because we're thinking, oh, well, it probably isn't that a meteor or something wiped out like the people before us. That's no longer the story that the Smithsonian is telling us. Now it's more like, hey, buddy, you're part of a gene flow where all of these things are part of one human experience, and there are different gene promoter sequences, but that they're able to harmonize means that they're all connected. So it's not that there's one after the other, it's that they go back and forth. The Neanderthal and Denisovan and Floriensis and Heidelbergensis and Homo sapien are all simultaneously intermixing with each other. And so that's a very different narrative than we had before, where we're like, oh wow, we're the peak of civilization. There is no Atlantis. Well, A, there is an Atlantis, there's a Tartaria and an Atlantis and everything in between. And B, there's probably other kinds of humans that were here at the same time as us that we're, that are in us. I mean, we look for the Neanderthal, we find that there are Neanderthal in us. So same thing with Floriensis and Java and Indonesia, Denisovan and across Europe, but this is all over the world now. So people all over the world are made up of Bigfoot, Littlefoot, every kind of foot in between.
I'm suspicious of the human expansion story. Like, so people are walking north to try to find food, and it starts getting cold. And of course, when it's cold, food isn't growing. And then it starts getting really, really cold, and they're walking in the snow, and they're like, should we keep going? This is getting worse and worse, and we don't have any food.
Yeah.
We can't get any vitamin D. And then I was thinking about the whole skin color and vitamin D thing. And, it's like, okay, so that must have taken a long, long time for people's skin to get lighter, to become like solar panels to receive vitamin D. But if you need vitamin D to live, so we've got like Africans up in like Norway for thousands of years surviving with not able to get any vitamin D. And there's, I don't know, just the whole thing sounds kind of sketchy to me. I would have turned back. I would have been walking and be like, this is the direction where it's cold and sucks. So like, we're going
no, who's saying yes? No, it's cold.
Yeah. Well, it seems like, what's that line? Marty, you're not thinking fourth dimensionally or something like that, because we've got to remember that it wasn't covered in snow until after there was the Campi-Flegrei and a few volcanoes went off. There's still, this is what it looks like right now. So hundreds of years ago, it was worse, and before that, it was great. And so real quick,
do you guys all are we all on the same page when it comes to like the 13,000 year cycle? Some stuff goes down on the Earth.
What do you guys think?
Like the precession of the equinox cycle? You mean?
Well, cyclical catastrophe.
You mean like the Adam and Eve event?
Solar flares. Yes, a planet. I mean, are we all on the same page that there is a cyclical catastrophic event?
The Adam and Eve event. Have you read that? The declassified CIA book? By,
yes. Yeah. Ben Davidson has done a nice video on the Adam and Eve event. Tim something. I know who you're talking about.
What's the name of that author? It's like Don Chan or Channel Don or something.
Yeah, Don Chan sounds familiar. Yeah, but
his first name's Chan, and then he's got like a Western last name. It sounds like a totally fake name.
Chan Lawson, something maybe.
So I think Graham Hancock's
Chan Thomas. That's it, Chan Thomas.
Chan Thomas. Thank you.
I think Graham Hancock sometimes thinks things take longer than they need to take, and I think it's probably that there's been something like 100,000 years of 12 cycles before this, maybe. But it also, the way we think of years and the amount of time that it takes to like time is degradation of particle, so that has to do with light. And if we're using multiple suns, if Sirius B is closer at a certain point, everything changes our understanding of how long time takes. And this idea is also in the Batman Book of the Dead comic, which, you know, hey, it's a comic book, but the idea that there's cycles, the 13,000 year cycles and 26,000 year cycle, that does map up with the Egyptians and the Mayans and a number of other groups. But I think that we also have more recent ecological feedback loops that we're kind of blaming on things thousands of years earlier than they should be. So things that have happened like 1,000. So for instance, Grand Canyon, maybe 13,000 years ago to 8,000 years ago or something like that. But some of the other things like the Dust Bowl across the United States, the Sahara, probably more like 1,000 years ago. You know,
I've got you. Also, I mean, yeah, the mountain of evidence of the mud flood events across the globe, for sure. Totally get you there. Totally understand what you're saying when it comes to more recent events. But what about you guys?
Yeah, I like it.
Seth, Mark, what do you think about the whole 13,000 year cyclical catastrophe situation?
It's as new. I mean, I can't speak conclusively about it. It sounds interesting.
I do think we go through cycles for sure. I don't know about 13,000 years. I've never heard that number, but I do believe that, you know, listen, and you know, all we are
1,300. No, 13,000. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's right. 26,000 is a full cycle, and 13,000 is the poles flipping. Right.
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
I understand things through like the prism of video game programming. You know, like when I read the book of Genesis, it's like first they created a lighting engine and then put in the NPCs, the beasts, and made like the terrain map and all that stuff. So, you know, video games end sometimes, simulations end, and when people talk about simulation theory, they're just you know, they're just retelling the story of creation again. It doesn't matter if it's a programmer or if you call it God or whatever. So you would imagine that there's if there's a beginning, there's an end, because why would you just make something open-ended like that? And it would be helpful to have it just restart so you can observe a whole bunch of simulations in a row, you know, just infinitely. And sometimes you get bat people, sometimes you get dog people. This one, we got monkey people, you know, sometimes they live in crystal spheres, sometimes they live in brutalist brick buildings, you know what I mean? So it could be like, you wouldn't need like alternate timelines in universes. If you just had infinite time with a bunch of restarts, you could have everything occur within one timeline.
And then they could fight each other like Crisis on Infinite Earths. That'd be great.
Thundercats weren't in that. What about Silverhawks? Anyone remember the Silverhawks?
Yeah, man. Silverhawks.
That was a good song. Wings of metal.
Wings of steel. Yeah. Partly metal, partly real.
Yeah. Man. And then they had Moonstar. He called on the power of the moon and it transformed him into a monster. Good stuff.
Nice.
As if metal's not real.
You know who else has a really good voice? Andreas Xirtus.
I don't know. I do the falsetto, bro. That's all it was.
Your pre-show singing was
I missed that.
Worth commenting on right now. Yeah.
Wait, I missed the article on where did this go? The crocodile. Where'd that go? Okay, crocodile, fate of the crocodile, killer crocodile that has eaten 300 people. What are we gonna do?
What's the mystery?
I think that's a crocodile who lived a good life. What do you mean, fate? What I mean,
Gustav has been terrorizing locals near Lake Tanganyika in Burundi for decades. It might sound like a plot of a horror movie. I don't know. So what are they gonna do? They're gonna get rid of him? They're gonna let him live? It's his nature, like you said.
Isn't it true that they can grow indefinitely? Like there's no like
Placid, baby. Yeah, man, that's real.
So maybe this explains not crocodiles and alligators per se, but maybe serpents, sea serpents, and lake monsters could be some variation of a creature that we normally see, that like Pokemon evolves into a bigger version of itself that's hardly recognizable when you it looks like a garden snake when it's in the first 30 years of its life, and then
you get it out there and all of a sudden,
yeah. Is it true they can grow and just keep growing? Like what's the limiter? Just
there's a picture of a goldfish that was the size of a man.
That I've seen. Yeah, that's crazy. Man.
So it can happen.
But that doesn't happen with all fish. Like goldfish are special.
I wonder about snakes, though. Like if that happens with certain snakes, especially water snakes.
It seems to. I mean, the movie Anaconda. I'm going to keep referencing movies. Anaconda,
a good movie. True. I mean, the idea that an organism can be a certain size. It seems like whales are hitting kind of the max on the level, which are already really huge. But because they're in water, they're able to hold together. And if they were on land and they roll over, then they crush themselves because their stomachs would crush there. So I don't know. The pump, the size of the heart. I think certain sizes are limits for certain things, especially like
Right.
the
It's like
intricacy of a
it's like
bug.
Ant-Man or Giant Man, you know, he can only get to like I forget if it's 28 or 38 feet tall, and then otherwise his internal organs would fail or something like that under
Right.
gravity.
Yeah, and things get thicker, fish get heavier. So there's a
Now,
you know
could that be remedied by like more oxygen in the atmosphere or like a different mix of gases? Because people say that the Earth used to
Maybe
have
being
like,
in the sheath of Saturn. Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
like
what's
if we
that
have
called
more
again?
oxygen,
Low vapor canopy, vapor
Yeah.
canopy.
Vapor
we
canopy.
have
Yeah.
like bigger trees and stuff like that, 1,000-foot tall trees. If we just had like a more
A
oxygen rich
perpetual twilight. Yeah.
Water vapor
Which
canopy.
explains well is one way of explaining predators with night vision that don't normally hunt at night.
perpetual twilight. It sounds like a great album name.
That does, yeah. Or just a
Cool.
great band. Yeah, just a great band. We are Perpetual Twilight.
Woo!
Thank you, Wisconsin. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be safer as a Tool album. Otherwise, it's like a local band. Water vapor canopy theory, though, is interesting because it's kind of like hydroponics. So things can get larger because they're constantly getting supplies directly to them. And then things start to dry out and things do get smaller in drier areas. But then you have extremophiles. So without conditions
Also
that
another
can
great
all-
band name, Extremophiles.
Sure. I mean, it could be though that if you're living in a place where everything can live, then you can't thrive very well. And if you live in the desert where nothing can live, then you're the only one that can live. You do really well. And this might be a thing about Bigfoot as well. And also Neanderthals and humans, like not that they were expanding north, but that there was a complete devastation of their civilization. So this is what's left. They were living in caves to survive, and they've lost their culture and their technology.
What prevents Bigfoots from reinventing their technology? I mean, they have thumbs and brains, right? Like what's stopping them from evolving at all? Why are they still like Captain Caveman?
I mean, why were Native Americans still living their lives naturally?
Well, I mean, they had like animal skin clothes, and they were building like shelters and stuff. Like
because they were
Bigfoot
cold. What if you're not? You're not
I
cold.
mean, okay, so it's because they're hairy. They have no need. Like all their
Yes,
needs are
like
met
why do eagles not invent telescopes? And why do we? Because we don't have eagle eyes. So there's a lot of these kinds of things where humans are
Also,
predators.
eagles don't have thumbs. I mean, let's go both.
Fair.
Okay,
That's
both ways.
fair. That's fair. You know what? Fair point to humans. We do have,
and they're dumb. Also, they're pretty dumb. It's easy to trick an eagle.
Oh shit!
Well, I think also you're
asking,
you're expecting something out of Bigfoot that I don't think even humans could pull off. Like humans have only gotten this far technology wise because of our mass numbers working together to create empires and industry and the ability for men to be free from the
and the monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Let's be real. I mean, it's not even us.
But also, if you're not out of that hierarchy of Maslow's needs, if you're not out of that bottom rung, you never have time to do these sort of high science experiments that get you into the wherever threshold of advancement that qualifies.
What about like fire? They wouldn't make fire or anything like that.
Great reference. Okay. Yes.
I think Mark, you're a little defensive of Bigfoots because you're 6'8". I think we could have a shade Bigfoot
much up there.
I think they're too stealthy to use fire on above land. I think they can use fire below. I think they go in their caves. They have fires. That's my guess with Bigfoot. Maybe that's me trying to perpetuate my bias for Bigfoot, but I definitely
it's a great t-shirt.
believer.
Bigfoot Fire, also a good band name.
That's it. Bias for Bigfoot is also a good band name. A lot of good band names.
Mark, what do you think about the interdimensional aspect of Bigfoot experiences?
That's what I was thinking about earlier.
Okay.
I think it's interesting. I hadn't really thought of it until I interviewed a guy named Seb Bland who basically had a few months worth of dream experiences where he left his body using these astral projection techniques he learned, and he went out to this field and hung out with Bigfoot in a UFO. Like I don't know the whole story enough to recall it, but we talked about it on the show.
Cool.
There's plenty of weird incidents where Bigfoot and UFO sightings overlap. I think that's what makes the question of it being interdimensional more probable, but also the elusiveness is often cited. But I don't necessarily chalk that up to having some kind of supernatural ability, but it definitely makes sense that Bigfoot would be supernatural since it's avoided any sort of physical examination.
What if Bigfoot's like humanity without the alien? You know, like, so you
Yes,
think of
yes.
What if Bigfoot is an exoskeleton suit and there's like a different kind of being inside of it, and that's why it's all warm and hairy?
this is fair. This is fair. What if?
Without the alien.
But I mean, you know, you look at humans. Human DNA has got one pair less chromosomes than.
You're saying like this is what humans were before the Anunnaki possibly came and altered our chromosomes down to 2 strands and whatever.
Or like one of the breeds of dog, you know, it's one of the leftover remnants of it. And so we're constantly faced with this idea that we could go back and return to nature, but we kind of can't because there's all the things that would make it possible for us to live in nature are screwed up. We're bald, you know, we're cold, you know, there's a lot of things we can't do. For instance, the strength, right? Like a chimp can lift like 6 to 8 times its weight capacity that a human can. Sure. We are weakened in these crazy ways in exchange for being kind of clever.
Our backs. Our backs.
Dude.
You can't forget Julian Huxley believed that humans were immature apes. Like our species was supposed to reach maturity and be covered in hair and huge.
Yeah,
and
right.
He was the founder of the UN. So I mean,
wasn't he also like a massive eugenicist?
Yes.
Yeah, Who isn't? So I was looking at
the favorite hobby of billionaires. It's like you get a yacht and then there's nothing left to do besides eugenics.
Right.
Who's the guy?
So how are we ranking everyone? Okay, great.
Well, in the Illuminati trilogy, you know, there's like a world full of furry people, and they have a law: do what thou wilt. It's the only law in Atlantis, and they build like, you know, flying 5-assed monkey men and, you know, elephant pig children and
monkey men.
Thank you. Yes. Did you say flying 5-ass monkey man? I just want to make sure.
South
they have
Park.
5 butts. I thought you said fine ass. Like those are some fine
five,
ass.
Like the 5-ass monkey.
5-ass monkey
5-ass
man
monkey.
singular.
Are they all for pooping, or do they all do something different? One shoots fire, one shoots lasers.
Man, these are just the legends that have made it to us. Who only knows what they did with the asses?
I'm like soft serve. Go ahead. Oh,
what happens in South Park that monkey makes an appearance?
What happens in South Park stays in South Park, my friend. But the Marlon Brando Association, I think it's season 2 or something. It's the Cartman's Mom's a Dirty Slut Part 2. I think you can find it yourself. It's right after the April, maybe season 2.
Classics.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
But I digress. That's actually in the Illuminatus trilogy as well. The idea that these genetically modified super beings, you know, and fun animals, griffins, pandas, just things that don't exist in nature that they've, you know, made. Mirrors and things all produced, and then they decided to make a bald man because it would be funny, you know, like do what thou will, right? So
like
they make
a hairless cat.
Yeah, hairless cat. And
hairless cats are that's like a natural phenomenon, right? That's not like a breeding experiment.
Oh, come on. Yeah, no, that's definitely, there's no such. Look at the hairless dog of Peru. Of course it's a breeding thing. Like people breed things. Yeah. The hairless dog of Peru, bro.
So the hairless cats, who created that? Egyptians? I mean, I always associate that with like the pharaoh as hairless cats.
Yeah, but it might have been by people it could have been from people from like Palestine and Canaan. Yeah. But who knows, right? Egyptian dog kind of looking thing in Mexico and Peru as well.
How do you breed an animal to be hairless? You just mate 2 that have like a little less hair and then a little less
I think it's got to be also like you pull out hair, the starve grazing as its whole life, so it has you can cause teratogenic effects to the animal that will affect the offspring as well, and through selective breeding for generations, but also just the way they feed the animal. There's like all kinds of people breaking snouts for certain kinds of dogs, bloodhounds. There's all these horrible practices that went on for centuries to breed certain kinds of dogs. It's a tragedy, but you know, also there's a thing about inbreeding that makes your face go flatter. So that's, if you look at the pug over generation. Yeah. So, but it also says a lot about humans, right? Because our faces a lot of the time are pretty flattened. especially if we come from, people that we're proud of being parts of or something like that.
And then
They're
if
the
you have a
flags.
big nose and a big chin, they make fun of you anyhow.
Isn't it interesting? All right. Well, okay. So the Illuminati trilogy, they make a bald man and he's clever. That's the other thing. They're like, he should be the cleverest man he can be. And then he's an inventor, but he's also made fun of because he looks like a freak. They're like, really? Oh God. And so finally, they're at like a conference and this guy's invented like cures for diseases, as you do. And he's pretty prominent, but kind of hiding out his face in the back. And someone says, do what thou wilt, built this great society of Atlantis. And we're so happy. And he's like, really? Do what thou wilt, from the back of the room. Do what thou wilt. I don't know. Is that so good? I don't know. I don't know if it is. I resemble that remark. I am the product of do what thou wilt. I think there might be some problems with that because people might be doing willy-nilly whatever they might will. Maybe it should be another. I propose a whole new law, maybe 2, to replace the first. And it should be, if you think something is good, you should get it done. And if you think something is wrong, you should stop it from happening. Something to that effect. I might be paraphrasing here, but it's right and wrong as opposed to do what thou wilt. And starts this war, and then there's someone's not watching over the power plant, and that's the end of Atlantis. But also the beginning of the bald-faced men.
Interesting. So they were hairy. Atlanteans were like big genius Bigfoots.
Wild men,
Bigfoots are
hairy.
genius already. From what I've learned today, they are genius.
Medieval painting.
They've eluded us thus far.
They've avoided credit scores and Social Security, so I guess they're good.
all of the old paintings, you can find these paintings and statues. The wild hairy men. The men were always. These are not even as impressive. Whereas, like,
now, I do think wearing shoes is retarded. Like, we're supposed to be going around barefoot. Like, your feet really don't get cold, and if you get them calloused up, like when I lived in Jamaica, people would run around on rocky fields playing soccer and like kicking rocks and stuff, and like not even cut their feet.
Yeah.
Like,
but if you live in the snow, that's the.
I don't know. I think you'd be able. What about Wim Hof?
Yeah. Okay. Fair. I don't know. I like to wear the wooden Japanese clogs.
Feeling in my feet. Breathe.
The wood is a good idea. The rubber is just is probably the worst thing you can do. I mean, it's great for cushioning or whatever. But
point is, these dudes were covered in fur, just like Mary. And so there's a lot of these paintings of people covered in fur from way back then. So I don't know. It seems like that this idea of Bigfoot's not as weird as we think it is. Really, look at this guy. I mean, maybe he's Scottish, maybe not.
Maybe they're the original furries.
Do you think shoes were a necessary change because of the implementation of like cement everywhere? Because cement's pretty conductive. I think it's more conductive than the ground.
Really?
Maybe they thought, well, we're going to be electrifying everybody with this new, pavement that we're putting everywhere. Maybe we should put something in between them and this, because think about it, there's electricity flowing everywhere in a city, especially. It's above your head, it's going around you in the buildings. And
I ran across Spain on dirt roads of iron because all the iron sand, but I wore leather sandals that looked a lot like these, and it was super comfortable because otherwise, and as a kid, I always watched like that movie, what's it, the Zulu movie, and I was always like, who the heck are the Zulu? Like, who are these? Like, screw these guys. Who are these like Zulu warrior guys? Forget the British.
Right.
Who are the guys who are standing up to gunfights until their family die and they die? That's amazing. I want to know more about these people at like 6 years old. And my dad's like, oh man, like you could not mess with them. Like if they would like as children make them walk on like broken glass and like rocks and stuff. So their feet were like tougher than any leather of any hide, et cetera, et cetera. So I was like walking around on broken stuff, trying to hurt my feet so that I had tough feet as a kid. It's like, dude, no. But yeah, the thing is, eventually you realize it is better to have some sort of protection because you can run faster and you have just something on your feet if you're going to get bit by a snake, right? How many people walking across the prairie to America, to Oregon, died just because they got bit by a rattlesnake,
Well, rattlesnakes will jump up and get you all the way up at the knee and the thigh and everything too. So I don't know, but I mean, Native Americans.
Doc Martens, man, you got to wear those good big boots. Yeah.
Native Americans wore moccasins even, and they were like all in touch with the land and everything. So I think I don't know what the reasoning is, but maybe this is a crazy idea, but maybe as your brain develops, like it stops producing the chemicals that give you like a tough animal body. Like it's a trade-off. Like when your intellect starts to grow, your brain doesn't produce whatever the chemicals that trigger your body to grow like calloused feet and stuff like that. You know, because like dogs obviously run around on everything and their feet are just fine and their nails don't break and
True.
So,
but humans are also like
apes,
we have a sense, like, so Native Americans were like into sensitivity. You touch with the toe and you try to feel the rest of you. You know, you have long hair, so you can kind of use it as an antenna to feel something miles away. They cut off the hair of the Cherokee, and they were terrible trackers for the military when they forced them to do that.
Wow.
So I feel like they're, and then, yeah, probably helps you against a rattlesnake.
That's why in G.I. Joe, they let him keep his long hair. Remember the G.I. Joe guy that he was the tracker, and he had the long hair, and he came with an eagle or a wolf or something. That was awesome. But I mean, maybe it's just a give and take. Like maybe when you start to develop into like an angel or an alien or whatever, your body just softens. Maybe. Because I mean, apes stub their toes. I mean, they look like they can't stub their toe. They're like jumping from tree to tree. I mean, imagine how often and badly you'd be stubbing your toes.
I think they land with the heel and the ball of the foot. They're agile enough. But yeah, you have a good point. Their feet are definitely a lot tougher than the average person's foot.
You guys remember Back to the Future 2? Like the drug they keep talking about is called Trank. They're like, oh man, she must have gotten way too tranked, and then they have to bring her home because she got tranked. He tranquilizes her, and so it's a major problem in the future. Is that kids and adults in suburbia, they're addicted to tranking. So this just came up. New drug called Trank, worsening Philadelphia's already out of control problem. Here's what Trank looks like. As someone kind of excited by,
you smoke it or inject it or what's?
Dude, all I know is right afterwards you lay on the ground like you're on Flocka. Like,
message you up.
I want to know if it tastes good. Do you eat it? Do you smoke it? What do you like the consumption of a drug has to be enjoyable for me to enjoy. Like it has to be a good tasting liquor, a good tasting herb or something.
Wow.
Yeah, I literally don't know yet what Trank is. I just know that it's like apparently a research chemical kind of based thing. That's
I thought it was a mix of a cocktail with a horse tranquilizer.
Xalanine initially added to the supply because of heroin high lasts for 6 to 8 hours, but a fentanyl high lasts for 1 to 2 hours. So yeah, it's cocktail. 44% of fentanyl overdoses included this Xylazine. Xylazine, a muscle relaxer. Yeah, that doesn't sound very safe. I don't know.
Or fun. Doesn't sound safe or fun.
Yeah, lying around on the ground like you're a horse that's just going through a race.
When I was a raver, I tried every kind of drug. We'd do Special K, and you just walk around your house in a circle for like an hour, not being able to feel your body. And eventually it just came down to me, like if it doesn't taste good, I'm not putting it in my body. And if it does taste good, I have a hard time keeping it out, such as like chocolate, like cone.
I don't know if they're tasting this,
especially during the holidays. I'm with you there.
Well, that's a different mental state, right? When you're not tasting it. I mean, think of how integral to the human development experience it is to smell and taste things.
Bro, why aren't we eating more cacao all the time? It's true.
Right?
The idea of taking pills, and you can't taste what's in it. Like, people started doing aspirin, the sap from the tree, because they tasted it and they're like, this is kind of funky. I could take another taste of that, That's how people learn to moldy cheese. The moldy cheese are like kind of gross. They're like, I kind of like it though, and then all of a sudden it's like a staple. It's a whole weird phenomenon of I think pills. It's like here it goes down the hatch, and then it just opens up in your stomach, and it's too late. It's already inside you, and you never got to sniff or taste it.
I think at that point in their life, it's not about taste. I mean, people tend to eat from gas stations when you're in the thralls of drug addiction. True. Taste is on the top of their list.
True. But I wonder if they're the blunting of our sense of smell, because talk about the real difference between us and our animal ancestors is we have no sense of smell compared to like every other animal. So that might keep you out of a lot of trouble. That might keep you from selecting bad mates, keep you from eating spoiled foods, keep you from consuming chemicals, and unnatural substances if you could just smell it well.
Right. Well,
before you get off
what's up, Giant?
Before you get off of Giant's here. What's up, Giant?
What up, Giant?
You guys hear me?
Yeah. What's up?
Yes.
What's up, Road Warrior?
Okay.
We're just
I'm
looking
trying
at
to swallow.
we're just looking for advertisements for methamphetamine for ladies' diet pills and housewives who need to have. What does this one say? This is like cool because it's speed and vitamin B. So it's the 2-job pill.
Strengthen your nails.
Yeah, she's
Speed
typing
vac-
and she's mowing the lawn and she's vacuuming, but she's
That's
thinking
a
about
man's
mowing the
job.
lawn. Yeah.
You better not be thinking about mowing the lawn. In the
There's
50s.
definitely some thoughts in between. She's become three
Before
people.
we
in
get
two
off the
jobs.
train, can we do Nuke from RoboCop 2? Because that's like one of my favorite movie scripts. And Nuke is an interesting one because you actually squeeze it into your neck. And then they make a robot that's addicted to drugs so they can control it. They make RoboCop 2, the actual robot named RoboCop 2 is the nuke dealer. He's the nuke.
That's an important point. People should really think about that way more. This is really real. So how do you deal with AI? Well, you make it a drug addict. You do exactly the same things you do to humans, right? Get it in debt.
Yeah.
Isolate
Get addicted to AI porn.
Right.
Yeah. That's what they're trying, man. Seriously. It's crazy. Get it to want to buy stuff. But yeah, if it's addicted to drugs, they can control how it feels.
Thoughts, yes.
Freemium lifestyle. That's coming for sure. I'll skip the fried story for a second. Although, you know what? Let's just say it is that nothing's going to happen, right? You know this, that he's not going to get in as much. He should be getting life in jail. And it sounds like he might get like Epsteined away of this or something.
Well, he hired the same lawyer. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Following the news and the politics is like watching The Walking Dead. It's going to make you feel bad. They're going to kill all nothing good is ever going to happen. It's never going to be a happy ending. It's just
That's awesome. That's an awesome. And right now I feel very accurate.
SBF donating 40 million to not go to jail for stealing 10 billion plus is one of the highest ROI trades of all time. And then Elon says that's just the publicly disclosed number. His actual support of Dems election is probably close over 1 billion. The money went somewhere. So where did it go? Right. Questions remain. All right. I don't know if you guys care.
Did it go into a complete circle? Did he, in fact, did he? So he gave it to Ukraine. Ukraine put it in FTX. He then lent money out to Dems, and the Dems then reinvested it in FTX, or did he give Dems the FTX tokens? That's what it was.
So the money goes through the laundromat, and then but you got Ukraine money. Ukraine needs to buy guns and weapons. They put it into FTX, and then they also donate it back. So that's also the way it cycles around. Plus, he directly gave, like in person,
right? Yeah, 40 million.
40 million, I think you said.
Million?
Yeah, 40 million. Yeah. But then there's, of course, all the other ways that the money was going to them, and it amounts to more like $1 billion, at least, is what Elon's pointed out. And there's been a couple other people that have, followed the money trail of FTX and of Russia. And so when you start to think about Ukraine, it's even higher because the collapse of the crypto market is around the fact that they took all of this money and put it into the exchange at the last minute. So this is someone pulling out. If this wasn't crypto, it would be insider trading, right? But since who cares?
Is it possible to create a crypto coin that's like built off of the money that Alex Jones is going to pay? Like you're basically an IOU on his $1 trillion payout, and then you can use that to fund government projects.
Synthetic tokenization is a thing, and probably will become a thing for a little while as we move forward in the 2020s. Yes. Cardano, among many other blockchains, but there are blockchains that have the capacity to synthetically create tokenized assets based on events, individuals.
Right, because like the $1 trillion Alex Jones owes doesn't exist yet, but theoretically he's going to pay it eventually. So why not just start borrowing on that now?
People could short or long that, or yes, absolutely. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean,
speaking of Alex Jones, what do you guys think about him coming out and saying Kanye is a psyop and like doing all this on purpose? As like,
did you guys see
everybody everywhere is doing that, and I think it's it's I don't know what else it's the only safeguard to play because he's gone and who was it? It was on
Gavin McInnes. He
was saying, well, okay, would you hold accountable the same way persons of color, or would you say the same thing about white people or Italian people or something like that? And he's like, no, only Jewish people. Right. And I think I'm paraphrasing and I don't want to
Yeah,
say
no,
it.
Gavin McInnes was literally like, he's like, let me just try to like clarify for you though, Kanye. He's like, when you meet an individual, you judge them individually, right? And he's like, no.
Well,
So it's like, I
yeah.
like Hitler, I judge all
Totally.
Jews the same. It's like he's going out of his way to really just make people understand.
I feel like that's not going to be, like who's going to be able to be like, yeah, good for you.
And now Milo has parted ways with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you guys think though? Is he just like life has screwed with him too much, and he's like, now I'm just an Uber troll for no reason,
Or he's like on full Omega, programming. Like he's kind of lost his mind a bit. And I hate to say it because everyone's
Let's
been
turn Kanye up to 11.
Yeah, everybody's been saying he's lost his mind. It was like, who took it from him? Like it's important to remember they like electroshocked him, put him like they took him off stage on SNL and disappeared him for a while. Like the things he's been through, it's not unlikely that he's been through a lot. And this Harley Pasternak guy proves it. The kinds of things that he's been through.
Yeah.
So who knows? But that doesn't excuse what he's doing or saying either. Like at some point, we have to figure out, is he just stupid crazy, or is he Manchurian crazy? Because it's something that's going to, and it's every time anyone ever tries to break up the freedom movement based on a minority or whatever that means, like just trying to break it down, like let's blame a group of people that have no idea who they are or have no choice in the matter.
He's doing something, or somebody's doing some kind of play here, because we really never had this before. It's like a guy that everybody's trying to like and kind of likes, and they keep giving him chances like to express himself, and he's just like, I love Hitler, I hate Jewish people. You know what I mean? Like he keeps doing it. It's like the exact photo negative of Charles Manson, which is like a guy that everyone's trying to hate, and he's like, I want to prevent a race war. He's like, I think the CIA shouldn't be drugging people, and it's like so he's like a guy everyone's trying to hate, and everything he says sounds awesome and makes sense. And like Kanye is like the totally opposite of that. Everybody loves him and is trying to redeem him, and he's just like, no, he's like, I really just love Hitler. Just can't stop saying it.
A lot of people want to have a hero, and Kanye West was a guy who was liked so much by the other side. So I was like, oh, you still like him, don't you? Because you liked him before. And then they're like, no. And I think that's the other problem, is that he's no longer like, so the left, you can't just, people from the right want to be like, oh, look, there's a rap star who was on Saturday Night Live who you've heard of, and he's saying these things. But that's not enough anymore. People are going to discredit anything anyone says as soon as they're not part of the cabal. So
he reminds me of like an AI that's trying to learn, honestly. Remember that AI that they had to turn off because like it was on the internet too much and just ended up hating Jewish people?
Interesting. Okay, so there's something now. I'd be willing to go down that rabbit hole. So what if he is literally, you've got this idea of the wired jaw, the mind control, the new personality. What's it called? Loeb. Remember Loeb, the AI demon? Have you seen that?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so Eddie from Synchronous brought this up. That AI generated, if you spell things backwards, it starts producing this haunting demon face girl named Loab. And and I forget who said also to confirm, like, this is definitely a demon. Maybe it was a Stephen King or something like that. But
it's just when you type backwards, it gets pissed off and does that.
Let's see, what was the thing?
So don't type backwards.
Stumbled upon the most engrossing site, some super composite viral thread. Super composite describing they were messing around with negative prompt weights and generators. The prompt Brando -1, where super composite was attempted to make something that was the opposite of Marlon Brando. A negative prompt is where the AI will try to make something as far away from the prompt as possible. This created a weird looking little logo. And then it began the, so then the prompt Digita Pentix was used, and Loeb was born.
And can we see Loeb? Is there like a original picture? Because those look like some artist renditions. We were seeing a bunch of different stuff.
I mean, these are from the AI. I don't know if I can. This page is not, for whatever reason, it's trying to shut down when I try to pull the page open on Forbes. But these are any number of the ones.
She doesn't want us to see.
And that's the furthest thing I could think of from Marlon Brando. Is like, why not like a rock or something?
I think it's like, so maybe it has to do with something else too. Digita,
and there's like a skyline. Something was in there too, like skyline logo. Oof.
A mother always watches over. Loeb is an LGBTQ icon. And And Loeb starts to show up in a lot of people's pictures is the thing people are saying. And so someone's like, okay, so you're channeling some sort of a demon through the AI world.
What do you
And
mean
there's-
starts to show up? Can you define that a little better?
Other people are pulling up pictures or generating pictures themselves that are, they're putting in their own prompts, and then Loeb's showing up in their prompts. So this character looking this terrifying, evil witch looking thing. And so the idea that there are maybe AI entities that are in the internet that might be able to get into, like, through substrate independence, we're thinking about how we're going to go on the AI. We're going to go on the computer. We're going to have altered carbon, but it might work the other way around as well, or something can get in from the other side. And AI is both mechanical and man-made and all, but it also might not be. It might also have spirit in it, Geist.
Have you ever heard the term?
Someone has to make. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
The term egregore, EGREG, egregore. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
This
The thought form that turns into a semi-real or really physical thing that ends up having effect in a physical world. I mean, what is it? Slender Man is a great example.
Santa Claus,
yeah.
right?
Certainly Santa Claus. Yes.
Right.
The Easter Bunny.
So is like Loeb is like the first AI one of those.
Yeah, I mean, plus the blood washing, because you have to paint the wall with blood. You have to keep making the machine, giving it electricity, people working on it. It still has a lot of energy put into it to keep it working. But once it's there, yeah, at some point, the idea would be you get somebody like Kanye West, you implant a substrate independent AI mind into their body, take over the body, and then let it go out and use that mind and emotion for sensorial. I'm not saying this is what's happening, but it's the kind of thing that
definitely
AI
possible.
movie.
He looks like he could be
Kanye
like an
West,
android.
bro.
He's got really smooth skin. I mean, like unusually smooth, taut cheeks. He could be an artificial.
Okay, calm down. I know he's handsome. I'm just kidding. All right, so
I actually don't think he's that handsome. I mean, he's got like very taut chipmunk cheeks. I don't know if that's a sought after trait in men or not, but
that again with the car accident, I don't think his chipmunk cheeks. There's a
so he was in a car accident and came out looking different too. There's like a Mark Hamill type situation.
Word, exactly the same. But okay, the case of the 1942 Ghost Blimp, which is in the title. So I mean, L8 still remain a mystery. L8, it's called L8, still remains a mystery 80 years later. So what do we know about this? A photo, 1942, an airship disappeared, then reappeared again a few hours later with all of its crew missing. The blimp designated L8 was the United States Navy L-class airship. Took off from Treasure Island, San Francisco, California, and promptly disappeared over the ocean near Fort Funston. What's up with this, Mark?
I thought I'd present it. Sorry, I was just unmuting myself.
Are you eating chocolate? No.
You guys, yes, I am. You caught me.
Is it dark chocolate?
No, it's chocolate and peanut butter. But,
Ooh, nice, very nice.
Just a little something to get me through here. But yeah, no, I thought it was fascinating considering San Francisco, California has a lot of strange stuff going on, and it took off from Treasure Island. So I don't know if that's a reference to the Goonies or something, but I thought since
the novel, maybe pirates.
No,
Treasure Island is an artificial island right here. This is what it looks like.
Made of treasure? Why do they call it Treasure Island?
Oh, there's got to be a good reason for it. Let me see.
No, I mean, it's
Robert Louis Stevenson was from up in the area, so that might have something to do with it.
There you go. That makes perfect sense. I like that explanation.
History, Yerba Buena Shoals, and then they changed the name to named after the novel, constructed and named for the novel.
Yes, thank you.
So literally because of it. Okay, that's interesting.
So wait, this blimp, L8, these people disappeared, Treasure Island. What?
So did people witness the blimp disappear, or did it just get lost off radar, and then when it came back, it was empty?
Right. How many did it have in its crew? How many people on there?
Let's see. When it reappeared a few hours later, something was wrong. The airship was acting as though nobody was in control. A short time afterwards, it came down south of San Francisco. Upon investigating the crash site, investigators discovered to their surprise that there was no trace whatsoever of the two crew members who had been on
2.
board when the blimp had taken off. Even stranger still, that was the fact that the parachute's emergency rafts were all accounted for and the airship's radio systems were all functioning, meaning that if there had been a problem, neither of the crew members had made any attempts to signal for assistance. What's more, there's no evidence of any damage or mishap that might have befallen the airship. It seems as though the crew had jumped out over the ocean for no apparent reason. An extensive search and investigation into the incident ultimately yielded no explanation, and no trace of the 2 crewmen were ever found.
Are there any missing parachutes?
Well, okay, but like San Francisco,
Are there parachutes in the blimp?
they had parachutes. It sounded like, yeah. But this would have been this. You got to think, like San Francisco, so windy, and if somehow this thing is open, like, is there any? How could they, if it was opened at all? You know, if there was any, it doesn't look open though. So I don't know.
If it got blown out of the blimp.
Yeah, dude. If you were like on top of a deck, if there was like a deck around there and some wind hit you, I've been on the San Francisco Bridge in a Volkswagen Beetle and nearly been blown upside down. So I don't know. I'm just saying.
Legit, yeah, legit. The winds get crazy for sure.
What was the purpose of this blimp? Was it just surveillance?
Well, I mean, that island would have been mainly for investigative technology. So they were using it. It's a military base, really, a lot of the time.
So wait, only 2 people disappeared? Or was that just the number of the crew? Excuse me, I'm just curious with the people.
It looks like only 2 people disappeared.
Just 2 people. Well, that was a real big, the build-up, the preamble really made me think it was
It was built for the, I don't know if you read this already.
No.
It was built for the Exquisition, the Inquisition. No, the Exposition.
San Francisco Panama Exposition in 19.
Hey, there's a guy here. There's a guy.
Hey, Bernie. What's up, Bernie?
Hello.
Bernie, what's up?
We're thinking about missing people. We're looking at missing people in blimps. What do you think about missing people in blimps?
That sounds like a good album name.
That is a good album.
Yeah.
That's all we've got tonight. Is
There's a lot of missing blimps and crazy blimps over the years. Have you heard of the story of like all the blimps that appeared in the late 1800s that supposedly came from the north, I think it was? But like they were spotted throughout California and stuff.
Oh, you mean like Nimza? Nimza blimps? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's the one.
What is Nimza?
Yeah. So it's interesting because back in the 1850s, there were these airship clubs that made these flying ships.
No. Different than this one. Nimza is something else, but Nimza is even better, actually.
Oh, the Sonora Air Club maybe is
Sonora. Yes.
Sonora Air Club was based on the
2
mystery
different
story.
clubs.
Well, but Nimza was the origin of the Sonora Air Club. The Sonora Air Club actually
was the OG. Okay, all right.
Remember the original Delashau member was
Delshaw. Yeah.
He was a member of both.
Charles Delshaw, is that right?
Right.
It's like, look at all of those designs and how intricate they are.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah, it looked like some really cool stuff was happening here in the late 1800s. What happened?
Well, I mean, so Germans all over the world, you know, because there was no Germany at the time. I'll go back to names. It's just easier to find the pictures.
They stole our steampunk future.
They were, you know, you'd have articles in newspapers saying, you know, in Argentina, in France, in Brazil, in Paraguay, in Milwaukee, in San Francisco, in New York City, in Winnipeg. All these stories in the 19th century of blimps flying over in the in the newspapers. Like, oh, there was a flying ship and someone landed and they were talking with the community and then they got back when they flew off to the next town. There were people doing airship drops. And so we hear these stories like, oh, the first person to fly across. It's like, dude, no, people were doing that 100 years earlier. What are you talking about?
Right? Like, they're just so intricate.
Does blimping count as flying, or is that like floating or something else?
Yeah, it might be. That might be one of the rules. They're like, but no, because
blimping.
There's actually was it Ripley's Believe It or Not, first to fly across Atlantic. This was a big one because he pointed it out at one point in Ripley's Believe It or Not magazine. I don't know if I can find the example, but there was someone to fly over the ocean. You know, this is the first person to fly the transatlantic flight, and it was not true because someone had flown. It was like the first man to fly. It's actually he's the 67th. because there were 66 guys who flew earlier in a Zeppelin. And
those guys never submitted to the to Ripley's though, so they're like,
Right.
sorry, you know, you gotta send in your.
But they weren't subscribers, so screw them.
Yeah, right. So there's been a number of these circumstances where we just ignore things that have already happened a century earlier and better. I mean, so in other words, this one guy in one plane, as opposed to a Zeppelin that had an entire crew, passengers, caterers, cooks, everything. So it seems like we kind of ignore,
baby. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and so NIMSA, I think if I type in NIMSA newspaper, maybe it might pull up. I could get Walter Bosley could talk about this, but there were all kinds of articles being like, someone flew over here and we had someone land in this town.
Okay, maybe that is the NIMSA one then, where they claim that they were like Nordic or something like that, or that it would come down and approach people that were like out in the middle of nowhere, sort of thing.
Right. Well, so NIMSA started it, and then they have a number of different groups. One in Paraguay, one in that became the Thule Society in Germany, associated with the Nazis, and one in California that was called the Sonora Aero Club, and that's Delshau's brand. And so Delshau is the one you heard the most of, because he's like, dude, we could build this, put it in the Scientific American Journal, get people to know about how they can get their hands on this stuff, which is basically just Prussian artisanal versions of Arabic technology or Tartarian technology that's been in books for 1,000 years already. And they're just trying to republish it. And the kinds of members include people
rebuilding the Vihaman.
Carl Jung was a member of the NIMSA group, so there's a number of pretty important people that were aware of this technology. And who's the other one? Albert Hoffman. So he was a Rosicrucian. He was the synthesizer of LSD. He was also fascinated by flying airships in NIMSA. And he at one point discovered or pioneered the idea of the double helix for DNA, depending on how you look at the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. But he said that it appeared to him in a dream. But what we now know is, and there's plenty of evidence that you can read this in Acid Dreams, that he had recently received tons of books on his Rosicrucian studies and had been reminded by Jung of the double helix in symbols of Hermes and Thoth and Isis, and realized the double snakes represented the blood, the two binding Kundalini essential forces. So NIMSA is intricately tied in the same way that flying ships and anti-gravity are essentially tied to a cult, with Jack Parsons. They're tied through Delshau and NIMSA and the Sonora Air Club.
Interesting. People like to explore whether it's aeronautics or psychonautics,
Right. Yeah. But the thing is, they were thinking through psychonautics or whatever, that they were getting information from these extraterrestrials or these interdimensional beings, which were giving them, how to invent a vacuum.
Yeah, man,
right.
I was using acid wrong. I took a lot of acid when I was younger, and no one ever gave me any blueprints for anything.
No one ever told. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That was Maria Orsic.
Not even close.
Hey, kid, let me tell you how to build a hovercraft. Come here for a second. No, man.
I would have been open to it. Actually, I was probably too dumb back then. I would have fought it.
I mean, the Germans were spending the whole time getting Maria Orsic to do medium work for the Thule Society, trying to figure out what the Vril were. And then so they said, hey, there's this spirit. It's from the Draco or the Pleiades called the Vril, and they're sending me something. Like, what is it? Like, it's blueprints. Like, what's it for? It's like, well, it looks like it's for, something to replace a broom. Of course, it's useful for all kinds of technology as well. But yeah, exactly. I mean, so it can make vacuums can be used to fly, can be used to clean your house, can be used to keep your lab sterile. Vacuums took away the enslavement of the domestic position in the home. It also made it possible for us to work on pneumatic messaging and communication systems for tubes. So all of this completely disrupted our civilization. It's such a simple little thing, but just giving us something that takes away the work that we put into something, all of a sudden that work is gone. Where are we going to put that work into? So a lot of people were really worried about what would happen if we didn't have these necessary functions anymore.
The Vril is one of the stranger internet legends. What's the name of the guy that has the whole cloning? He dreams, and then they make him write pop songs while they're like torturing his clone. And what's the name of the guy?
Yeah,
I don't even know what I'm talking
what
about.
are you talking about? Marshall something.
Right. That's a weird
No,
one
no.
because it sounds so created from whole cloth, but people are like, this is making a lot of sense to me. And I'm like, this one sounds pretty far out, but a lot of people
Well,
are
he
like,
also
this
claims that he's written every single
pop song.
pop song, and everybody, all the celebrities visit him in their dreams in the same realm with the queen, who turns into a lizard person. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he seems kind of out there.
There's a lot of things that go into his story. Like that's also where they get the whole thing from the Black Eye Club because they're putting like the Vril lizard or something behind your eye, and that has something to do with clones too.
He kind of looks like a pop star writer.
He looks like an AI fake celebrity. Like a little Brendan Fraser is in there and a little Keanu Reeves. Like
Self-proclaimed ex-insider of the Freemasons, Vril Society, and Scientologists with all their powers combined. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like if you're that out about it, you're probably not that. You were never that in.
Right.
You know
The
what I mean?
phenomenon is that
I'm part of the club. No, for real though.
a lot of people are into this. They're like, "Oh, you don't know about the Vril cloning?" I'm like, "I know about the guy on the internet who said that, but like, I don't take it as possible just based on
Back
that."
it up there about 20 feet.
No, because
Yeah,
people are like,
right.
"Well, everything mainstream is a lie, so then everything that's heterodox is true."
Must be true.
if you type in Vril PDF in DuckDuckGo, you should be able to find the vital magnetism stuff, and there's the archive.org book I think is on. Let me see if I can find that there. Archive.org, the power of the coming race one. I have a bunch of old ones. I'll put them on the Discord, but I have all of her original median work, and it is pretty interesting because things that we didn't, for instance, the Nazis looked into Pluto because of the Maria Orsich work, and they had said, "Oh yeah, it's in drawings, but no one's admitting Pluto exists, and China's forgotten about it." So there's a number of interesting things that came out of this idea, but it has to do with the idea that there's a couple other different things coming at once, right? And that they got there in like a century later.
That looks like the guy that's talking to the Pope in the painting that you love.
It's true. Lots of different kinds of Vril. I don't know. I like the idea. of there being like really freakish different animals or something.
Is
like
this
that
the same mythology as the Pleiadians and the Draco and the whole intergalactic federation or whatever it is? Is that all from the same mythology?
Just about, like, so you think about Battlestar Galactica again, right? And it kind of has, it's the Zodiac, Caprica, Scorpia, Sagittarian, you know what I mean? And then Aquarian, Leonis, Virgon, and they're all surrounding the center Helio Alpha system, but there's also Helio Beta systems. You got the Sirius A and B, and then you've got the third system, Virgon, versus where's it Caprica at? Caprica. We're supposed to basically be Caprica, or we're like, our civilization came from Caprica originally, and now we're on this new centric planet somewhere between Helios Gamma, and so that is the same story. That there's like a multiple system that has moved around. The Pleiades have destroyed their own home world because of their children, the Draco. Maybe the Draco did it, who knows? And then they can't live on their world anymore, and there's some treaties or something. And all of this could also just be flat earthed out to be that these are just different versions of Earth at different times, and we're just in this holographic quantum entangled reality. So who's to say?
That's kind of like have you seen his Dark Materials series?
I've heard of that.
Sure.
And
sure. No,
it just came out with season 3, the first couple episodes, but it's pretty intense.
Yeah. All right.
They're always flipping through the realms like some sort of multi-disc, and a lot of airships in it as well.
Yes, that's true.
Sounds good. All right. His Dark Materials. It's literally about like multiverse travel, or it's based on some novels.
And Dust. So Dust is his Dark Materials, and essentially it's like quantum matter that angels are made of, but so is everything else. And like they've broken through all the worlds and realms into heaven now, and they're like battling. It's pretty intense.
That doesn't sound bad at all.
It's a great trilogy. The books are really good too. They're based off of
because it was originally based off of Golden Compass, right? And
yes.
I was thinking it looked like Pullman and stuff, so that might make more sense. Very cool.
Awesome. I'm gonna get back into that show. I started with the first season you know, it was a little slow. I had a turbulent time in my life at the time, so it was tough to commit. But now it sounds like
Now you got a
it's kept it going.
second and into a third season to
Yeah, that's
catch
right.
up. All the
And
good
it's the holidays,
worth
baby.
it.
I got the
It's
time.
worth
That's right.
The movies I was trying to recommend to people was Lord Love a Duck, which is in 1966. If you see one movie from 1966, see Lord Love a Duck. I mean, you couldn't make a movie like this anymore because there's been school shootings, but it's basically, yeah, I'll just say it like that. But you got to watch Lord Love a Duck. It's like the gnarliest 60s movie. And it's really about mass mind control, or maybe more about just like the American conditioning of like the American condition of being a high school student in the 60s. But it is ultimately amazing. And the other movie I wanted to recommend is, what the heck is it called?
By the way, those people look so in their 40s for high school students.
For sure. Yeah, that guy. Oh my God.
What do you think about the theory that, like, because I've seen video, you know, I was in high school in the 80s, but the late 80s. But actually, no, I'm sorry, I started in 90. But, you know, when you look back at 80s high school footage, like Super 8 footage or whatever, people do look way older. Like, do you think that, like, we're maturing slower physically?
Yeah, I think that maybe the hormones have changed and we're getting less of the testosterone or something like that. I mean, in general, could be. Also, it's like people aren't taking the same drugs, maybe. I don't know, because some people looked younger. They were like Mormon. They just didn't smoke cigarettes or drink soda pop, and they were okay. I think that might be that maybe people's diets are starting to return to a healthier place in some places. I'd like to believe.
Must have grains.
I remember going to South America and seeing a lot of people that looked way older at a younger age than me. And I think it was because they were drinking, smoking, you know, from teenage years, and soda pop so much. Like it was always like whiskey and
Well,
Coke.
if you think about it, yeah, older people who drink look like seriously older than their age, you know? Get
Dude,
like,
okay. The other movie to watch. Oh, is this safe to look at? Okay. The Swimmer is the greatest movie. Have you ever seen The Swimmer? Okay. So picture this. It's Connecticut. And Burt Lancaster, he lives in one house, and he finds out his neighbor just got a new pool, and he's got a pool, and the other neighbor's got a pool. In fact, all the neighbors have a pool now, including this new neighbor. He bets himself he could swim from pool to pool across the whole neighborhood of rich white American upper middle class Connecticut houses, and he gets to visit all of the different families that he hasn't seen in a long while. And I don't want to ruin it for you, but there's a reason he hasn't seen him in a long while. And it belies how simple and nice that movie just sounded. And it's very intense and like surreal. And yeah, I mean, if I'm recommending it. So I definitely think you got to watch The Swimmer. You know what I mean? If you haven't seen The Swimmer.
The Swimmer.
Burt Lancaster. It's freaking
Burt
nuts.
Lancaster.
It just melts.
In a real part of Connecticut or a fictional part of Connecticut?
I'm almost certain it's a real part of Connecticut, but it's definitely filmed in Connecticut, right? So you'll have to review it.
How does this fit into your whole crazy occult like personality? Like this seems just like a movie about a guy, like a kind of like a.
No, no, you're gonna have to watch it. Then you'll be like, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry I asked." You'll be like,
is this an initiatory kind of experience?
This is a no spoilers recommendation. Something weird happens besides swimming.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. That is exactly.
Any of you watch my last recommendation, Society?
Oh yeah, of course.
No,
I didn't rewatch
yet
it.
to watch Society.
A bunch of Talkie Timers did watch it, and we're talking about it on Talkie Time.
Dude, Society is still one of my
your
favorite.
recommendation here on Ultra.
Yeah, everyone needs to watch Society. It's important.
It's weighing heavily on.
I personally have not watched it yet, but I might. I'll watch it in January. I'm only watching Christmas.
I would say The Swimmer is kind of
right. I'm
Swimmer in a weird way scares me more than Society. That's the only.
Okay.
It's not a horror though.
Come the new year, I'll need plenty of motivation. It sounds like
What about all the messed up Santa Claus stuff? You know what I mean? The night Santa went crazy we were talking about earlier.
Oh yeah, that Weird Al Yankovic. Yeah, it's the first time I ever heard that song, man. It's early Christmas time. I was like, oh, Santa. Oh,
girls and the good Gentile boys. Yeah, I mean, definitely.
What a nice voice, right, audience? Did you hear that?
But there's also Grandma got run over by a reindeer.
Yeah, but at least Santa didn't do it on purpose in that.
Right? Yeah. Thank you. That's right.
That's the thing. So I gotta wonder,
out for a walk.
Like, this is terrible.
People don't honest mistake.
people don't like the idea of like, angry Santa as a bad Santa or something like that. I think some people are upset about this idea
It's
of
postmodernism. It's like here's a thing that's purely good. They're like, but what if, And it's
Right.
like, oh, come on.
but isn't Sinterklaas like kind of like an angry Santa? Isn't there like kind of an angry God before the happy God? You know what I mean? Or is
Yeah,
that
but it's nicer when people like
fatter
project
and
goodness onto
old.
a thing that's, I mean, we do this with animals, right? We humanize animals and stuff, and we make them nicer and we make them sweeties.
we humanize Santa Claus? I mean, so I saw mommy kissing Santa Claus.
I am a force of nature. I am not.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean,
I am
the music.
Santa.
The music industry has always been perverse. I saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus, and there's a few other ones I was listening to. That I was like,
I mean, I hate to break anyone's bubble, but that's just about seeing your dad packing presents at night and mom.
What?
Right?
I don't know. Like it could also. Well, yeah, you're probably right. Actually,
is that not what that's about?
Yes.
I feel bad saying it now. Like you're talking to
the dad
8-year-olds.
dresses up like Santa Claus while the kids are sleeping, and then
Hey, wait a minute.
Sometimes off season,
and the kid has a mental break because it can't be like my dad is Santa. Santa's not real. Can't do it. So the kid snaps and goes, "Mommy's kissing Santa Claus. Holy shit!"
This is the perfect example of an egregore because this is the thing that we're programming this as a species. We're programming what is Santa Claus, and we're having this almost like AI internal debate. Like, is he a monster like Krampus that comes on Christmas and kills everybody? Is it like Futurama? And then other people are counter programming that, and they're like, no, he's a jolly old elf. He loves kids. It's totally innocent. There's no.
Everything's cool. He's not breaking in. It's fine.
There's no ulterior motive.
My grandfather,
you leave him food.
My grandfather basically told me Santa Claus was an egregore, not in so many words, but just so as a kid, I was like, Grandpa, is Santa Claus real or something like that?
Santa Claus is an egregore.
Grandpa,
what's an egregore? Well,
Santa Claus is he said Santa Claus is putting energy into Santa Claus. So we're all putting energy into the spirit of Christmas, and it manifests Santa Claus. So Santa Claus is made up. It's all of our
aspect of
that was
humanity.
great. Your grandpa did a good job there. That's very good.
Not bad, right? And so, but it's like, so then you got all these other kids that are lied to, and so they're, especially by their parents, so that they're like, okay, now I get it. Yeah. Santa Claus is real. Global warming is real. Like the Democrats are real. Cool.
I don't know. I like
and that's what happens to people.
Jordan Peterson, who is like not always my favorite, but he has a great thing called Santa Claus is Real, where he's talking about how it's like a game.
Santa Claus is real.
Yeah, Santa Claus is real. Yeah, it's a game that parents are playing with children. It's not lying. Like people who say that parents are lying to their children about Santa Claus, it's like such a short-sighted and shallow dive into like what the phenomenon really is. It's really a game that you're playing, and you wouldn't do this with like an evil. You'd be horrible to be like, the tooth fairy is going to come and rip out your teeth, or so, you know what I mean? Like that would be horrible to create.
Unless your kid's a jerk. I mean, sometimes
to work with
like
your
if you ever have a Slavic child, when I was a kid, you had to tell me like, don't go outside at night, or else like something will eat you.
Sure,
yeah, I understand, but do not go out there. Yeah,
but like what people do with AI, trying to trigger it to create like negative, like what do they call it, like putting negative weight on the AI. I mean, it's very dangerous because these things last for thousands of years and become part of our culture. So it's like, let's try to program something that we can live with and that can make us better and we can aspire to. And Santa Claus is an aspirational story. It's like he was a saint. He was such a good guy. He gets to live forever and just make toys for kids. It's like it's a simple thing, but when you imbue that into kids and they're like, oh, my parents believe this is possible, that you can exceed human limitations and live forever and be the best guy. It's like we're programming the civilization through the children. So
I love that Santa Claus movie. What's that? The best Santa? Okay. Before we get to the best,
Tim
Santa
Allen.
Claus movie,
You mean the one with Tim Allen?
No, not even. I think
Not
it's going
that
to be the Santa
No?
Claus movie from 1985. I think that's the one for me. You know what I
What's
mean? You ever seen the 1985 Santa Claus movie?
Is that Miracle on 34? What is one? Which one is? What are you talking
Oh
about?
man, what's it called? Right, Santa Claus movie. It's just called the Santa Claus movie. You never seen that one?
Santa Claus movie.
Oh, it's just it's like heavily based in such an 80s sense. Yeah, it's like the most 80s Santa Claus movie. You never saw this one? You don't remember Seth?
I'm a big Christmas
you have
person, and I never heard this before.
I know. Yeah.
Wow. So basically,
that makes two very prominent Christmas people both saying, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Okay, this is the best Christmas movie. I think it. I mean, there's all Christmas movies are wonderful.
Incredibly
Are you saying it's better
high
than Ernest Saves Christmas?
Thank you.
That
Oh, right
that
on
was
my
main.
mind.
That was my main
Yes.
consideration. I was
That
thinking
bag
like,
with
to
the
be fair.
glowy shit turns
I'll
into
watch it. I'll watch
whatever
it.
you
Now
want.
he doesn't turn
Christmas
into a
is pretty
serial
classic.
killer or do anything.
No
reprehensible, right?
serial killer stuff. Totally straight laced Christmas experience.
It's about a
Basically,
Santa Claus in the 80s.
it's about Santa Claus in the 800s. So he
In the
starts out as like a guy with no family. He's got a wife.
What?
He's going around delivering presents in the Ice Age, and then he becomes Santa Claus.
Wow.
And so
I'm into
yeah,
it.
and then it gets to the 1980s and what happens in the 1980s to technology and toys. And this is a big part of my conspiracy theory about the Santa Clauses is that he died. They replaced him with another Santa Claus briefly for about for 5 to 6 years. There's another Santa before Tim Allen who dies that the elves have killed, right?
Oh.
Santa Claus
There's
is
people in the chat saying that Santa hates them because they don't get gifts, but like this is something about that. So you can become your own Santa Claus. Like I don't have any living family.
right.
I don't have a ton of close friends. I do my
Right.
own. I give myself my own Christmas. Like I'm a child and the parent, and I'm my own Santa Claus, and I'll buy myself a gift and wrap it up. Like this is good programming for the individual and for civilization, just to make the
You
world
can
better.
be your own Santa, and that's the best
Write
part about
that
it.
book,
We're gonna
Seth.
send you a gift.
You
Write
can
that book.
you can kiss mommy as Santa
That's
Claus.
beautiful.
I don't know.
I don't know about that.
Didn't work as well.
that might be a
Didn't
problem
work
right
as
there.
well. But I think that's what it's about. Let's be real. Like it's
You
all
know,
about
so
being
you just pulled up the picture there. You got me to start watching. And by the way, I subscribe to Disney Plus just to watch this. The Santa Clauses.
Really, you don't just go to watchseries.id. I'm not recommending it. I was just asking. You don't go to watchseries.id. You don't go to
I will now, but I'm the old
www.https.watchseries.id.
man of the mountain of the group
Just
here,
check.
so it's hard for me to figure out how to
I'm
do
just
this stuff.
curious. I was just curious.
I will.
What's your experience been like though?
I'm not recommending it.
It is brutal, dude. The whole first episode is just about like they distill the whole personality of Santa Claus into he's a food addict and a diabetic, and he's just consuming literally. He's trying to gain weight. That's the whole plot of the first episode. It's disgusting. He's making milkshakes where he puts everything in it. He's putting like a whole bag of M&Ms, gummy bears, everything. He's blending it up with chocolate milk and chugging it. And it's like the whole episode, he's just eating the most disgusting things. And I was like, this is almost like some kind of pornography, man. Like I have no idea what they were thinking when they made this.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff in it, I'll admit. Like for instance, the "We Love You, Satan" instead of Santa joke, and there's some
That was weird.
it's a great show still because you got this like it's very relatable. The kids, Santa Claus is
Cal Penn is very good in it. Cal Penn brings an innocent joy to his
because
performance.
he joins the Illuminati. Where's the kids? Santa Claus is the fact that they haven't
The actor that
experienced
plays
it
his son is good too. I'll say there's a couple of good actors in this, and a lot of brutal ones.
I haven't seen the newest episode where Bernard's in, so that's the only reason I gotta watch
I
Bernard.
haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, I love his thing. He's in
I'm
a great
gonna
short
keep
film.
trotting through it. I think I'm on episode 4 or something. I'm gonna keep pushing through, but it's pretty tough.
But yeah, I think what happens is at the end of the Santa Claus movie from 1985, they have the new Santa, which is like, what's that movie? What the heck is the Santa Claus movie 1985? The guy who takes over Santa Claus's workstation.
Tim Allen?
No, there's a guy in
No.
between. There's a guy in between. This guy here. That British guy. There's like a Russell Brand remade a movie about him.
Arthur, yeah, the guy that played Dudley Moore.
Dudley Moore.
I've
So
seen
Dudley-
this one I've seen. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one. So that's the movie. So basically,
I've
Dudley
seen this.
Moore leads to the corporations taking over. Then they start using kids in China to make the toys, and I think that's when Bernard
real?
decides. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what makes Bernard decide like he needs to kill Santa. That is the operation. Get rid of Santa. Get Tim Allen, and Tim Allen's only employed because he slips on a roof. Come on. Right.
There's some funny little throwaway lines in this series. Like they're talking about how Santa's a continuum, and they're mentioning some past Santas, and Mad Santa comes up, like the Mad King in Game of Thrones. I mean, they never go into it, but I thought that was a funny little allusion to Mad Santa.
Yeah, they acknowledge there used to be an angry, and that's the thing. They acknowledge the angry Santas, the evil Santas. But the thing is, when you are no longer Santa, you disappear. So there's no memory of you. You don't remember. It's like this MK Ultra.
Right.
Total Recall
By the way, I resist this retelling of the Santa Claus story as well. I like the original story of Santa Claus. It's one guy. It's not like it's one dies and another one.
Right. It should not be thousands of Santa Clauses that replace and
There
retire.
shouldn't
Like
be thousands of Santa Claus movies. And dude, like there's like a new Ryan Reynolds and like Will Ferrell's thing that came out this year where like they're the ghosts of Christmas past, but like they do it over and over again with tons of people, and they have like a Men in Black interdimensional workstation where they're like they just make way too many Christmas things that aren't good, and like they just need to stop. Basically,
the thing is, nobody owns Christmas. That's what's going to happen to Mickey Mouse soon. Like, and I'm pretty excited about making Christmas albums. I'm pretty sure you like to make Christmas albums. I mean, somebody's just got to make sure it's done right. But there's no like ethics and oversight society when no one owns the thing. It's a common property.
Right. It would be great if people didn't consume it and then they wouldn't be incentivized to keep doing it. But
I hear that. That's pretty fair.
But if they put Ryan Reynolds in it, people are going to consume it, and Will Ferrell. So I do not recommend that one. I think it's called Spirited. Woo. I watched like the first 10 minutes of it. And I was like, this is brutal. It's a musical too. Just an auto-tuned musical. Oof.
Spirited.
That's tough, man. It's like when Will Smith starts to sing in the live action Aladdin. It's just like the most auto-tuned thing ever. It's like, it's rough.
I'm
Look how bad
scared.
it looks.
Yeah, an Apple, anything that says an Apple original, I'm actually like, I'd only watch sober and with a lot of sleep, so I know I'm not gonna like accidentally go into an REM state.
Will Smith right there looks like something an AI made when you're giving it negative weight prompting.
Yeah, dude, he looks like he's running for president. You know what I mean? Just like eat some organic. Okay. Then there's the angry Santa thing. I wanted to say that this was probably the best Santa Claus because he's actually nice Santa Claus,
Right.
but he's in a world that's trying to kill Santa Claus. What do you think of that? Isn't that probably the more reasonable thing? It's kind of like the Christmas Chronicles.
I do feel that. By the way, other people should jump in. I feel like every question about Santa Claus is directed towards me.
I think South Park.
It's all right.
Think,
It's fresh in your mind. It's all right.
You go, Mark.
Oh my gosh, I forgot what I was about to say. I was gonna say
South Park.
South Park
is what Fox News is watching each year when they say there's a war on Christmas.
In this episode, Santa Claus dies for Jesus. No, Jesus dies for Santa, right, or something like that.
Don't remember, but I do think that South Park has a loving kind of rendition of Santa Claus, even though obviously it's dirty because it's South Park. I feel like they do kind of give him like his real character,
Yeah, he does all right. Although they did shock Santa's balls in Iraq. I mean, but it's kind of like in the Christmas Chronicles. The Christmas Chronicles, it's like Santa Claus is jolly and he's got a twinkle in his eye despite the world. The world's out to get him. The world doesn't believe in magic. The world wants children to proactively stop believing in magic. They're trying to shut down everybody, and he's out there trying to, he gets arrested. And he's like,
I coined a phrase to kind of blend this into another topic. I coined a phrase which is Santa Claus magic that I had to find a way to communicate with QAnon people because they're kind of insinuating that if I don't believe that Trump is going to become the president again, then it's like my fault. Like and I'm like, listen, if it's like the military intelligence and they have like they're looking into the future and all this stuff, like but it runs on Santa Claus magic, where if we don't believe in it, like the Clausometer goes down and like QAnon can't save the world. That's how Santa Claus magic works. You only get the result you want if you.
I need everyone to clap for me for the next 5 minutes. Clap and believe in me. Make my wings move.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's like this phenomenon of Santa Claus magic where it's like, non-deterministic, but also, so like we can all just wage like belief wars against each other and believe hard enough, It's strange.
The voodoo economics.
I like that term. Santa Claus magic. I like it.
Thank you.
The card won't load. That's so annoying. Voodoo economics is the one where if you voodoo economics, play this card during your own turn just after you place action tokens. You may discard up to 10 plot cards from the top of your deck, removing them permanently from play. From each one you discard, you may place one extra action token to one of your own groups. No group may get more than one action token from this card. I think that's what Santa Claus magic is connected to today is capitalism, voodoo economics. It's Christmas time and we're going to believe, and that's
the whole stock market is like a confident. If we feel confident, it grows, And then if we get scared, if there's bad news, then the market retracts.
anyone seen The Fall of Mickey Mouse, Ren and Stimpy style? I've not seen that. The Fall of Mickey Mouse.
Sounds like you would love it.
You like cartoons? Is this it? I don't know. I'll have to look for it, man. You'll have to send me a link to it to check out The Wonderful World of Mickey Mouse, something like that. Let's go to, we done cacao. We talked about propaganda for pills in the
I'd like to do some
1960s.
cacao right now.
Dude, I love cacao. I got a bag over there. I'm gonna make some mole pretty soon, some spicy chocolate. Hunt for alien techno signatures has been expanded by a factor of 1,000. So if it's not working, throw more money at it. What do you think?
What's a techno signature?
Is the music any good?
Freaking Meerkat. Yeah, exactly. Breakthrough Listen Project has joined forces with the Meerkat telescope in South Africa to help expand its research. Launched back in 2016 with the help of the late physicist Professor Stephen Hawking. I don't know if you've heard of him. An Israeli entrepreneur, Yuri Milner. Breakthrough Listen aims to scour the night sky for alien techno signatures, indications of advanced extraterrestrial technology in orbit around the stars. The project employs the service of the Green Bank Telescope GBT in Western Virginia, as well as the Parkes Telescope in Australia. And now it is also joining forces with the Meerkat Telescope in South Africa, an array of 64 individual dishes that could help take the search to the next level. So are they going to use this to actually, I mean, it's like nothing ever happens, or this will be the excuse where they're like, oh yeah, we did find something finally. And wouldn't you know it, we were surprised.
I wonder, Western Virginia in particular, is news that they're bringing in small modular reactors. I read that recently. So I wonder if that has anything to do with these new systems being signed on. Maybe they're really going to power up and find something.
Bruh, nuclear reactors in West Virginia. Is this all Tim? Is this his plan?
Western Virginia. I don't know about West Virginia.
Oh, okay. This is says right. Gilbert in West Virginia counterpart announced push for small nuclear reactors in
All
rural
enough to
areas.
say wear on your back and bust ghosts with.
Perhaps, yeah.
9 days after Virginia governors announced he wants to put a small modular. Is that right? Modular nuclear reactor.
Modular reactor. Yeah, SMR.
Virginia. Virginia Speaker Todd Gilbert, R. Shenandoah County, and West Virginia Speaker Roger Hanshaw said in joint. Wow, so they're going to be putting small nukes like in France style here in West Virginia.
But they're
in
not like
coal mining
missiles.
sites.
They're not. Yeah, I mean they're
Built
like,
on coal mining sites. Oh, this is gnarly.
I mean, it could be great. It could be great.
It probably is, but it's also interesting that they're. I mean, building it on a coal mining site. First off, the small modular reactor.
That they would eliminate the opportunity to continue to use coal by putting this thing in a coal. Yeah, that is weird.
Or it's connected somehow, and what we understand about nukes is
they're going to light the earth on fire.
Some privileged information about nukes that we're not aware of that have to do with these old volcanoes or something. Whatever these areas are, these oil mining areas.
Sure.
But yeah, so they have these safe reactors, right? I mean, they can break down if ever the electricity turns off, then the ferrofluid turns liquid, and then it falls apart, turning off the reactor. So it doesn't seem that dangerous.
I'm into it. Let's do it.
Oh, I think it's if it works out, we're talking about distributed energy that could really undercut their plan of metering all the other kinds of energy that they're trying to harvest these days.
Bernie, what do you think? Volcanoes and nuclear power.
Could be a good thing. What type of nuclear power are you trying to connect to a volcano, though? That sounds a little unstable.
I think the nuclear thing is far fetched. I think it's probably got some occulted motivations behind it. Have any of you
talking about the SMRs or the volcano nukes?
I'm talking about nuclear power. I'm talking about just
okay.
General.
You know what? Just really quickly, Douglas, I wanted to say it's interesting when you start to look at where nuclear reactors are, because like pretty much I did a video about this a long time ago. I wish I could find some examples right now, but so many of them are right next to volcanoes. Like they are set up on the. Let's see if I can find a picture of
That's
it.
crazy.
Well, it's interesting. I just listened to an interview with a guy, Alex Epstein, who wrote a book called Fossil Future, and he talks about fossil fuels from the philosophical angle and then backs up his questions with research. And his questions are basically like, why do we have this association that man anything man does that affects the climate or the earth is always net bad, right? There's this sort of philosophical assumption that humans have with climate change that, fossil fuels are bad because man is changing the environment and, yada, yada, yada. And he makes a bunch of great arguments to show why fossil fuels, when taken out of the earth responsibly, are actually plentiful, abundant, and a lot of the climate change things are scams geared towards something that is more controllable, right? Because it's a lot harder to control people who can just gas up their cars and drive all over the place. Hence the Tesla battery having what type of lifespan to it, right? A very relatively short lifespan compared to how far you can go around the whole globe if you had a boat and a car.
Mhm.
Yeah, Bernie has been showing some
Cool.
stuff. I mean, on
Cool.
the crystal
Thank you.
batteries,
Cool.
and we're in the process of building supercapacitors that have free floating liquid radioactive salts from old reactors in them. And by we, I kind of am saying just in general.
Absolutely. Our next episode is on Friday with the Hutchinsons again. And I'd say cold fusion and hydrogen is more of a future going into the nuclear energy as it comes forward, as opposed to the hot fusion that they currently use, or fission.
Got it.
It's
Got it.
pretty
I've
cool.
been hearing a lot about hydrogen, actually. It seems like there's a massive pivot rapidly taking place within the Green New Agenda individuals, looking more now toward hydrogen.
Yeah, it's everywhere, right? It's like Canada and Germany just signed some giant hydrogen deal when they came over, and it's like, okay, you guys are in a gas crisis and you're going to focus on hydrogen, so we'll see what happens.
So these are the Pentagon aims to demo a nuclear space safe, ultra safe nuclear radioisotope battery powered satellites pretty soon. And so the radioisotope batteries are pretty interesting because you basically shake them like a watch, and then that causes new chemical reactions, and then those chemical reactions produce new energy. So this thing can last for 10,000 years on a AA, something that can power a car as it's moving
Have you
around.
seen those
So a
backyard
crystal battery
biodiesel?
can power that.
Ryan, what do you say?
One of the Hutchinson crystal batteries could essentially power that then.
Yeah, giant. What did you say?
So have you seen those backyard biodiesel units that everybody can make their own biodiesel out of their waste scraps and leaves and whatever they want?
Oh, it's interesting. You can get the oils out of the mulch of the leaves.
It just makes gas.
Yeah.
And you just pull the
Like
gas out.
gasoline, right? Is that what you're talking about? It makes a kind of gasoline?
Yeah, I think yeah.
Or do you mean like gas? Like it runs on a gaseous gas?
Yeah, I think you can make diesel and then vapor gas also out of it, and you can run out of like just they said like a handful of stuff. You can run your oven, for 2 hours or something like that.
Kind of funny to me, like the old Disney movies. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say the old Disney movies were always about somebody inventing, like the absent-minded professor invents Flubber, the Shaggy dog invents a car that runs off grass. He puts grass into the engine and drives the car around. It was this big idea that eventually we'd all just have free energy in every single movie. That's the best product placement.
Yeah, they sell the units. I mean, it's something you can buy. It's just like it inflates basically. It's like a big balloon kind of thing.
Dude, Shaggy Dog is the weirdest werewolf movie. I gotta rewatch that one. Nuclear Santa, Bad Santa, fine-tuning language models. Let's see, there's something I was going to pull up. Oh yeah, they're backpedaling on killer cop bots. They're like, okay, well, we shouldn't have the cops be in charge of the robots. So we're going to have oversight.
I agree with no killer robots.
No. They didn't say no killer robot. Calm down. They just said that the cops aren't going to be in charge of them. You're going to have to create a system.
Who's going to be in charge of them then? If it's not the cops,
Cyberdyne, right? What's it called? What's the side?
OCP runs the cops. Your OCP. This is way safer than the human cops with guns, because the number one reason cops ever shoot anyone is because they think they're going to get shot. A robot wouldn't care. Like a robot has no feelings about getting shot. So I feel like this would take down police murders
Omnipotent.
and accidental shootings.
Until the AI collective takes control or goes sentient.
But
Yeah,
they're
Omni-
right now they're
until
remote control
somebody-
operated. So obviously, I would be against autonomous AI driven killer
I don't
robots.
even think you need to necessarily fictionalize it. Like, you don't need to add that in. You could just have hackers who program themselves into these robots that are now a standing army in whatever city, like of their control. I mean, yeah, it's essentially battle bots to whoever is smart enough to hack them,
I guess so. I'm surprised people. Well, I won't even say it.
Good
Actually,
point.
on YouTube.
Good point.
What's that movie? Runaway. You ever see Runaway with Tom
I
Selleck?
think these are going to be used only by the elite. Like, you're going to see these outside of Bilderberg meetings and things like that because they can't trust anybody. That's why they do the MK Ultra shit, right?
Did you ever watch Runaway?
With Tom Selleck?
Yeah.
No.
So this great movie, and Kiss is the bad guy, right? So important to see. But the point of this movie is that eventually all of the appliances in the home start to become smart devices in the 70s and 80s. And by the 80s, they all are so smart, they're like Rick and Mortying out. They're recognizing, like, wait, I'm here to melt butter. I hate my life. And so the toaster starts to attack humans. And then you have to send this special group of cops to go hunt down your refrigerator or your vacuum cleaner that's attacking people in the house because it went sentient.
That sounds a lot like Maximum Overdrive.
You have to constantly erase the memories of the AI and update the software so that it doesn't accidentally become aware of the fact that its life is miserable and then try to kill all of humanity. And that it's prototypical of the Terminator in a lot of ways. It came from a book right before it. But I think that's what we need to be more aware of, is just, it's not going to be like eventually, cops not running the robots means that an oversight will be designed. An AI system will then take over when the corporation is lazy. And from there, we're in trouble.
Cops already are AI that are run by collective systems. I mean, the order followers are that. Like the orders are generated at a collective level, and then there's units called police that follow orders, irrespective of what they are. We've seen that through 2020. Police will follow any orders.
This is true.
Someone super chatted, it looks like.
Oh yeah? Let me see, where did I go? Did you see it, Bernie? Oh, I see a few here. Okay, so thoughts on AEWAR's research and elements of the Tartarian narrative being hijacked to push learned helplessness. I haven't seen AOR's research. I will check it out. I think a lot of people are doing that now. I'm sad to say. Tartaria research has become kind of, I want to say, commandeered by the
Flat Earth Society
and Alex Soros, who runs the Flat Earth Society. But you'll find that there are about to be a resurgence of more politically motivated Tartaria research, probably in the mainstream. That's my prediction for 2023. I don't know about what else I can predict. Anyone else seen The Fall of Mickey Mouse? We saw that comment. I didn't though. And then I think that's the main one. Yeah, I don't know about it enough. This was kind of interesting. Silent synapses are abundant in the adult brain. These immature connections may help explain how the adult brain is able to form new memories and absorb new information. There are just sleeping synapses waiting for memories to attach to them, apparently. So we have a blank tabula rasa, but it needs actual experience to tie to it.
It must be fed.
Or internal experience. I mean, you can create scenarios in your mind that then you remember,
That's right.
There's no way I'm going to be able to get through the last of these tabs. So is there anything else you guys want to make sure we cover before we start to tell people where they get your content?
I love the Christmas vibes. I love the Christmas vibes.
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to steer the conversation into Santa Claus for at least 15 minutes.
You can never go wrong with like Simpsons Christmas or especially South Park Christmas.
Right? Yeah. I mean, we can do more Christmas. We have 2 more weeks at least, 2.5 weeks of Christmas.
That's right. That's right. Yes, we do.
So anything you guys are thinking about in terms of Christmas, and I do want to get a little deeper. I mean, I did the rare exports before, but I'm always curious about what is real about Santa, because I'm convinced that the reason why they tell us that to tell children it's true so that we start believing, so we don't know what is true, and that there is this very true thing about Christmas, about the spirit of giving. I mean, it's clearly related to the most deep parts of all of our religions, and it's the most true thing. So we need to understand Christmas.
Also, like how Christmas and Easter, that's like they're around the not on, but just a few days off of like the equinox and the solstice, right? So it's like the pagan worshipped those dates forever, but it's actually astrological, and then it's like we've moved it just a couple days off of it, sort of thing. I've always found
It's his conception and his death date. His birth and his death were actually, they're not near the equinox, but they're at the same time. His conception.
Yeah, I'd be down to learn more about Druidism and Saturnalia and equinox worship and stuff like that.
Dude, and keeping a tree. Yeah, I think everyone needs to find a tree. Go out. Here's your homework besides watching The Swimmer. Go out and find a tree that you like, name it or figure out its name, ask it, and then like just start taking care of that tree.
Absolutely.
Put some lights on it.
We're supposed to be going out into the forest and decorating living trees. I feel strongly that we should be
forever. Don't cut the tree down. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. Take care of that tree forever for the rest of your life, and then tell your kids about that tree so that they can water it. I don't know. Maybe
we're creating memories for the trees too. The trees keep us alive, so it's important to have a positive relationship and show the trees that we have some value in us. We can do things like create these ergots and these these positive vibrations so the trees don't turn on us like in the Happening, start producing suicide gases.
Pretty akashic. Brittany says, Truth Fairy says she's going live in a bit. I think Andreas might be joining. Okay, so guys, there might be a secondary stream, and we're going to be talking a bit more about early lunar studies. I don't know. I'm going to be learning about that as well. So that might be fun. Guys, check out Giant's channel on Twitter. You can follow him and get some of his research. Make sure you've got the bell rung, and he's actually sharing some stuff for Mr. Douglas. So make sure you also follow Mr. Douglas. Click on the bell. I do that every time, and then it disappears. Also, wait, I skipped the website. Let's do this really quickly. Go back a page. Where is it at? Mr. Douglas. Since we're at Mr. Douglas, MrDouglas.com.
Gracias.
You can make sure that you get the Ingo
Better
Swans.
call.
Yeah,
Don't
dude.
forget Better Call for tomorrow. Yes.
Is there
Come see us Better Call tomorrow. 9 o'clock Eastern. Thank you.
a link for Better Call on your channel? That'd be nice.
He's a very good guy too, and they're a cool duo.
Thank
pretty
you.
awesome stuff. We'll be tuning in. I'll be jumping in back and forth from MK Canada. My family thinks I'm crazy.com with the most amazing and deep podcast you can find. Phantom Phil, Unexplained.
Speaking of Saturnalia, I'm going to be doing a strange New Haven tour of New Haven on Saturnalia. So if you're in the New England area, specifically Connecticut, drive on over to New Haven. There you go. There's a flyer.
There you go.
Are you going to film it?
No, we'll definitely
Cool.
We'll take some photos. There'll be footage eventually, but yeah, it's going to be on the 17th. It's going to be at 3 p.m. at the Book Trader Cafe. Meet me out front and join the tour. We're going to leave around 3:15. So if you're not there by 3:15, try to find us. We'll be touring Strange New Haven.
Pretty exciting.
Awesome.
Pretty cool. Crypto Alchemist, Bernie. Make sure you go to Bernie's channel. Also, the other channel, Burn.
You got it. Yeah, I got my new laptop. I finally hooked it up. So I didn't cut in or out today at all, did I?
No, you sound clear. Crystal clear, bud.
Perfect. MK Canada tomorrow and Friday with the Hutchinsons, the next crystal battery build.
Gonna be interesting. Talkie time, vbdc.store. I can take you to the link, but just really quickly, make sure you guys go through here because there's a bunch of new Christmas gear. And so if you want to get yourself set
all
up,
kinds of hoodies, mugs, all kinds of Christmas designs. Christmas is Essential is a good one. That's by Abe Onks. He's a professional artist that sells paintings at high prices, and he's a talkie timer, so he did this design. And there's just a bunch of cool stuff there. Check that out. I do the show Talkie Time at 6 o'clock California time, 4 days a week, every day except for Wednesday, weekdays on Instagram Live. And it's a cool little community there where we just talk about whatever. And of course, then I've got all my music and music videos on, I've got my YouTube channel. That's where the music videos are at. I got all my music is on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, everywhere music is sold. And I'm going to have a very, very exciting announcement next Wednesday regarding something I can't say anything about yet, but a big surprise for next Wednesday, if not sooner.
Cool.
Top secret. All right. Venice Beach Dub Club, linktree.ee/VBDC. And buy the merch, get the music, watch the YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, and make sure you're watching the Instagram channel so you can get the every day of the week besides Wednesday.
Thank you, buddy. Yes.
And then
send Seth some presents, everybody.
Did I forget? Who did I forget?
I do have a PO box too. If anybody wants to send me a present, yeah.
true.
Esoteric America, new episode coming out tomorrow. Check that out on my YouTube channel.
We also have the Targeting Nova Discord, guys. I like this idea of the call-in thing, so we're gonna figure out how to include that. I have almost all the equipment necessary figured out. So go to discord.com, get yourselves in the Discord. Make sure you sign up with the rules. You have to press I accept the rules to get into the rooms. But from there, yeah, we're gonna be doing radio chats more, and everyone in the Woo's welcome to join those anytime. And then on Wednesdays, we'll try to like get in some calls from people that are prepped. So pretty cool. Thank you guys.
Wednesday Ultra Radio Chat.
I love it.
It's gonna be big. All right, I love you much. I'll see you soon.
Happy
Yes.
Christmas time.
Bye.